I'm Nancy, and there we go. I had to push the right button there. Okay, so wonder how long your ribs hurt after you hurt them. Okay, so anyway, here we are. I haven't yawned all day long. So today we're going to go into some other aspects of the Charlie Kirk assassination. There are theories. I even saw this morning on it's Paranormal Files, but he's got a conspiracy theories page. And Colin Brown was doing a conspiracy theory on the Charlie Kirk case. So I wish I had that man's talent. If I had a quarter of his talent, a quarter of Mob Crew's talent, I'd be set for life. I mean, truly, truly, truly. So anyway, we're going to jump into some more information about what people are feeling and saying and thinking on their point of view of the Charlie Kirk case. Now, we know that Tyler Robinson will go to court on the 30th. And I just saw something pull up on my screen. Came in as an email that Tyler Robinson's going to want to not be in shackles when he goes to court on the 30th. I didn't read all of it. That was just the headline. So I don't know how that's going to be. So anyway, let's get into this. Thank you for being here. It is 3:05 on October 13th. Oh, I will not be here Thursday and Friday because my friend in Hutchinson, her husband has to go to Winfield both days. So I will not be here those days. I need to go to Hutchinson and be with her. So let's get into this video. You saw the fair use thing in my opening. So, all right, let's pull this up. This is, are they hiding the truth? New evidence in Charlie Kirk assassination. Now, I've never heard of Range Day Bro before, but apparently today I ended up with 2 videos from him. So he, I guess, knows what he's talking about. Look at all that in his background. That could just be an image, though. You don't ever know. You can use background pictures on your...
The Charlie Kirk video that I put out recently and go over some more of the inconsistencies, some of the holes in the story that I'm seeing from the official narrative that the FBI and this administration, frankly, wants you to believe. And I want to follow up on a lot of the comments that people have made and further clarify some of the things I was trying to say and get across to you guys. Now, I want to go based off of a little bit of a list that I have here because, again, this is a very important topic, and I'm not trying to make light of the situation. In fact, quite the opposite. I think we owe it to Charlie Kirk, and we owe it to ourselves in this country to actually find out what happened. And I have no hard evidence or hard proof of a grand conspiracy, but this is America, and I believe Charlie would have stood up for our right to question the official narrative, given all the information that's come out recently and the lack of information from our government and from the FBI, 3-letter agencies. So that's pretty much what we're going to cover. We're going to go into some of the other questions again that you guys mentioned. You wanted me to elaborate on some things, so we're going to cover those as well. So actual threats and actually breaking the law versus just saying something that other people hate to hear, a lot of which Charlie Kirk was accused of, right? So now we're seeing the same rhetoric on the Republican side and the conservative side in response to this. And I just want to point out that we are all, as regular people, as middle-class citizens of this country and of the world, really, all regular people. If you don't have, if you're not in that top 1% and you're not in the political class, it's really us versus them. And what is this type of division to sow? Again, whoever you believe was responsible for it, it doesn't matter. You see the result of what's happening. Why did they want Charlie Kirk dead? What was the result they wanted? Did they want infighting? Did they want us continuing to be at each other's throats so that they can continue taking power and gaining more power and more money and more control over the population? That's where my perspective comes from. Again, I'm just seeking out the truth. I don't know what the truth is. I'm just asking simple questions. And if people get offended by that, why don't you just answer those questions? That's the simple thing to do, right? If you have an answer, answer it.
Hey, that's a good idea, good way of thinking about it. If you get offended by somebody asking a question, just answer the question, because they wouldn't be asking if they already knew the answer. And if I don't know what I broke, I can't fix it.
And I would love to hear from you guys down in the comments about that. And now I want to talk to you guys about why I question the narrative. And that's because I grew up in the 90s with my eyes open, and forget about a lot of the baseless conspiracy theories that are floating around out there. Let's talk about the actual confirmed conspiracy, no longer theories, conspiracy confirmations, whatever you want to call them. And I have a few here in a list, and these are all confirmed by declassified documents from FOIA requests. Many of these are from over 50 to 75 years ago, because most of this information does not come out until all the people who are involved are no longer living and there's no repercussions for them and they get away with it time and time again. So first and foremost, let's just go down really quickly. You guys can take a deep dive on any one of these. Again, I can tell you for a fact these are confirmed to be true and essentially admitted to by declassified documents. Starting with Operation Northwoods, that was a proposed false flag attack on the U.S. in 1962. So the Joint Chiefs of Staff drafted memos proposed creating or fake attacks against civilian casualties to justify action against Cuba. So this was literally released later. The Joint Chiefs of Staff decided that they were going to create terrorist attacks on American citizens, sacrifice them as collateral damage in order to get the American public behind going to war with Cuba. Now, JFK shut that down. We saw how that resulted in his fate, okay? Moving on, Project MK Ultra. This one's very famous because it's been talked about a lot. CIA mind control drug experiments in the 1950s and 60s. I'm not going to dive into every single one of these guys. I'm going to keep moving on. The Tuskegee syphilis study. This is a pretty disturbing one, the Tuskegee syphilis study. This was deliberate withholding of treatment in 1932 to 1972. This went on for, what is that, 50 years? 40 years. That's insane. U.S. Public Health Service studied the course of untreated syphilis in black men without informed consent. The study documents are archived, and the U.S. government formally apologized in 1997. The U.S. government formally apologized in 97. Yeah, so that was a real thing as well. So then you have Operation Mockingbird, where the CIA was actively influencing and paying off journalists to shape the narrative during the Cold War. Operation Paperclip, this was the recruitment of German scientists during post-World War II. This is very well known. A lot of NASA was actual Nazis from Germany. So that was Operation Paperclip, us recruiting these scientists and getting them on our side to help us, win the space race and defeat Russia during the Cold War, the USSR. You have the Iran-Contra affair, the Gulf of Tonkin misrepresentation. Then you have the USS Liberty documents, and that goes into Israel bombing American ship, a U.S. ship, back in 1967, and the controversy surrounding that. There's a lot more that goes into every single one of these guys. My trust in the government, my trust in the official narrative has been extremely tainted by that. And not to mention also, most of the books that we learned on McGraw-Hill growing up were actually owned by the publication that was run by Ghislaine Maxwell's father.
I didn't know this was going to talk about all this stuff ahead of time. Okay, let's go over here to Charlie Kirk.
Charlie Kirk has allegedly turned Bibi Netanyahu down for his travel to Israel, that visit. He decided not to go because that was a part of a larger fundraising effort for Israel and the Israeli lobby to buy him off, essentially, because he was starting to question things like October 7th and whether or not Israeli intelligence had knowledge of that event and let it happen, why their response was so slow. There's a lot of videos on this. You guys can look that up yourself. But
he was a defender of our common Judeo-Christian civilization. He was unbelievably excited to walk in the footsteps of Jesus here. He valued our bond, the bond between America and Israel. He did so many things to defend free speech. He had his truth. He stood up for it. But he said, you can come and debate me. He invited that debate. He certainly didn't invite the violence, the horrible violence that tried to silence him. And, this is a worldwide problem. The people on the extremes, the Islamists, the radical Islamists, and their union with the ultra progressives.
Take note, okay? Remember what I said at the beginning of the video. What is the agenda that they want to push? Who is going to use this tragedy? Whether they're involved or not, right? Like whether Israel's involved, I have no idea. But is Israel going to use it to their advantage? 100%. He's already tying the left-wing extremists in America to Muslim extremists, okay? Just take note. Just listen to what he's saying.
They often speak about human rights. They speak about free speech, but they use violence to try to take down their enemies, whether it's President Trump, who's been almost assassinated twice, or, they try to kill me here too.
So right now he's using the America's mourning of losing Charlie Kirk to relate to the American public and saying, hey, you guys know, now you know how we feel with these Muslim extremists. By the way, Hamas, Bibi's been on record talking about how he needs to keep them in power because he can control the height of the flame. Dave Smith famously has been talking about that. And I think he did talk about that on Charlie Kirk's show, actually. Not 100% sure if he did or not. Definitely on Rogan, but he's been on record saying that. So again, now he's trying to leverage this tragedy, whether they were involved or not, to get the American public on the side of Israel, saying, hey, you guys know how it is. Your left-wing extremists in your country just murdered one of your most beloved leaders and young people in this movement. We know how it is. They're partnering up with Hamas and all these Muslim extremists, Islamic extremists, right? Just pay attention.
But they got Charlie Kirk, and it's just heartbreaking.
He looks heartbroken. I'm just kidding. He doesn't look heartbroken at all. I think Candace
Who is
picks
they,
up on
BB?
that too.
Who is they who got Charlie Kirk? We don't have to actually speak conspiracies. I'm just wondering, because you said a lot there, but it really sounded like it was about BB trying to establish a narrative that we saw reinforced by a lot of people that, Charlie kind of made it almost sound like he died for Israel. I mean, Trump's account even tweeted out a photo of Charlie and an American flag and also an Israeli flag, a bit of AI used.
That's weird. Those flags should never be crossed. The American flag is the American flag.
This is just who Charlie was. He says Judeo-Christian values. He spoke to him 2 weeks ago. Again, you would think he was busy fighting this 97,000 front war, but no, he's letting you know that he just randomly, picks up the phone and calls Charlie Kirk and invites him to Israel?
I think it's important to note, guys, why am I bringing this up now? Many of you guys have been watching my channel for years and you never knew my perspective, my opinion, my doubt in all these different events. The reason I'm bringing it up now is because they've murdered somebody that was literally out there just talking and speaking his opinion and standing on his beliefs. And
I'm sorry, sir. I never heard of you before today, but I might watch your show more.
And that, I feel like it was a direct attack on America, on the Constitution, and myself, somebody who believes in free speech, who believes in the Second Amendment. And that's why I'm like, you know what, fuck it. I'm done being silent.
Ooh,
I don't care who agrees, who disagrees. If this turns you off, then that tells me a lot about how you think and who you are as a person. I'm not calling anybody dumb. I'm just saying, hey, I got a question about this. Can we not talk about this? Why can't we talk about this? And if you can't talk about it, that's pretty telling.
It's like maybe there's a little more to the story. No, there definitely is a little bit more to the story. First and foremost, that letter he is holding up, he is severely misrepresenting. Those sentences are real, but I am calling upon Bibi Netanyahu, the dear friend to Charlie Kirk, to publish the letter's entire contents. Like, don't start with just 2 sentences.
100%. Taking it out of context. We're going to skip ahead a little bit.
I'm going to do that, but first, Skylar, can we bring in a clip of Charlie?
Sorry, I put on some background music so that it would kind of counteract that. I don't know how to make the overlays like Justin with Clutch and Pearls has.
From a month ago, speaking about the kind of pressure that he was under, because I think that will also help to further contextualize this. Take a listen.
I'm an American citizen. Yes, I want Israel to win. Yes, I'm a Christian. But some of the mess, and you've seen how I've been treated, Megan, by some, not all, by some.
No, it's very irritating.
It's
been
almost
so
as
unfair. They were coming after you after Turning Point for, among other things, that you had Dave Smith there. Dave Smith is allowed to criticize Israel. You had both sides. The Israeli side was overrepresented.
No, you're not allowed to. It's even worse than that. Again, I just want to repeat for the 5th time. I love Israel. I want Israel to win. But my moral character is now being put into question, Megan. Not my decisions. Not like, hey, are you doing this? Is it smart or is it dumb? But no, I am a bad person if
he's saying that with conviction. You know he's feeling that.
I do this. And I could go, you saw it, Megan. It was trending on Twitter, thousands of tweets and text messages. And if I were to be charitable and generous, I will say, the people that are attacking me are in a hyper-paranoid state because they're at war, and war tends to make things black and white, and you're a hammer looking for a nail. So I'm trying to be charitable, Megan. Literally, I'm trying to cut as much slack as I can, right? Like, okay, what would it be like if all of a sudden I'm starting to see a pattern of behavior similar to what my grandparents saw in 1930s Germany online? How would I behave? So that's like my charitable kind of overcompensation. Same time, I'm like, but it's not defensible to be dumb, right?
No, it's not defensible to be dumb.
Okay, now I'm going to go a little bit later. We'll be seeing more of this Candace interview, but I don't want to show you the whole Candace interview right now because it fits in a better place a little bit later. So I'm going to drop off of this one from the Range Day Bros, and we're going to go to one that's called new footage of Charlie Kirk Kirk's security before the bang-banging exchanges, or before the bang-bang changes everything. And this is from Crime Explorer, which I've never heard of this channel before either. I'm looking at new channels, not completely new channels, but I found new channels today in researching this.
New footage of Charlie Kirk's security moments before his shooting has just surfaced, and it's raising serious questions about what really happened that day.
I was closer than any of the students, closer than maybe one security guard between him and I.
Witness testimonies are now telling a different story than what we've been told, and when experts started placing the details together, what they uncovered was explosive. New footage of Charlie Kirk's security. The shocking new footage of Charlie Kirk's security team has thrown the entire case into question. For weeks, the public was told one version of events: tight security, no signs of weakness, and complete control. But this video paints a very different picture. It shows unusual movements, gaps in formation, and decisions that don't add up. Suddenly, what seemed like a clear-cut situation is now surrounded by doubt and speculation. Was this a simple lapse in judgment, or something far more deliberate? As more people analyze the footage, the narrative we thought we knew is beginning to unravel piece by piece. Now, imagine a campus courtyard filled with thousands of students, buzzing with anticipation. It's September 10th, 2025, and Charlie Kirk, founder of Turning Point USA, is in Orem.
This is why you shouldn't buy just one Mazzato knife. If you only buy one, you're just losing.
Utah, hosting another one of his signature Prove Me Wrong events. His message is bold, his presence polarizing, and his security tragically inadequate. Hours later, Kirk would be fatally shot by a sniper's bullet. But before the chaos, before the bloodshed, there was a long trail of warnings, ignored advice, and a fragile security setup that left the stage wide open for disaster. As we go further into this video, you are going to realize what led to this moment, and why the footage of his security team, before the shot was ever fired, has left so many people asking whether the tragedy could have been prevented. By the time September 2025 rolled around, Charlie Kirk had become one of the most recognized conservative figures in America. His
I heard this morning while I was doing research that prior to this event, like a few days before, Charlie Kirk had told his people in his office that somebody was going to try to kill him. I don't know that it would be out there if he hadn't actually said it. I think he said it was like a fear or something. Hopefully we'll find it here.
Campus tour, branded the American Comeback, was drawing massive crowds, and just as many protesters. Alongside his fame came something far darker: threats. In the weeks leading up to the Utah Valley University event, Kirk had received thousands of death threats. According to his team, a sharp escalation from the usual background noise of political opposition. But despite the scale of those threats, the UVU event still had one of the weakest security setups of Kirk's entire 2025 tour. For this event, Kirk's personal safety was handled by the E.E. Schaffer Security Group, a firm founded by former FBI agent Greg Schaffer and former police chief Brian Harpole. SSG had protected Kirk for years, though their contract had ended in 2022 due to disagreements. At the last minute, however, they were rehired for UVU, a decision that has drawn scrutiny ever since. The team on site was relatively small, 6 to 8 agents. Many were highly trained, some recruited from US Tier 1 special operations and federal agencies. They wore white shirts for visibility and carried Meta Ray-Ban smart glasses capable of recording video in real time. But their focus was on close protection, not wide perimeter surveillance. That distinction would become critical. The plan was a hybrid. Kirk's private detail would handle his immediate surroundings, while the UVU police department would control the perimeter. On paper, it seemed reasonable, but in practice, it was deeply flawed. Only 6 UVU officers were assigned to crowd control, about 25% of the entire campus police force. No officers from the city of Orem were present until after the shooting began. Worse still, no rooftop sweeps were performed, despite the fact that the shooter would later position himself on a building just 200-300 feet away. UVU had no drone surveillance program, and the private team had no jurisdiction to inspect off-campus rooftops. Security experts later called this oversight a critical gap. Months before this event, Kirk had been warned directly about the vulnerabilities of his tour. In March 2025, security professional Chris Herzog, known for protecting celebrities like Kim Kardashian, told Kirk there was a 100% likelihood of an assassination attempt without stronger precautions. He urged Kirk to adopt portable ballistic glass panels, rooftop monitoring, and even basic measures like handheld metal detectors. Herzog also suggested Kirk wear a bulletproof vest, but Kirk never followed up.
You know, if he would have, because there's ways that they could have put those glass panels up underneath, like, well, you can't see. If they got the glass panels to fit this perfectly, they wouldn't even be seen. The glass panels would not even be seen. And then he would have been safe. The bulletproof glass panel.
Expert Mark Wilson echoed the warnings, criticizing Kirk's insistence on open-air, lightly secured events that left him exposed to what he called nutcase kids with guns. By ignoring these recommendations, Kirk's security detail remained one step behind the risks they were facing. To understand how vulnerable UVU was, let's compare it to other stops on Kirk's tour. In Visalia, California, on September 2nd, 2025, there were 60 police officers, 8 to 10 SSG agents, and security measures like metal detectors, perimeter sweeps, and drones. That event went smoothly with no incidents. In Arizona campuses during August 2025, there were 20 to 40 officers, handheld wands, and QR ticket checks. But at UVU on September 10th, there were just 6 campus officers, the same 6 to 8 SSG agents, and none of the advanced precautions used elsewhere. Additionally, entry was free-flowing, with no detectors or checks. Security experts later described the UVU setup as not even close to what it should be. So, why the downgrade? According to insiders, Kirk himself insisted on keeping his events open and accessible to students. He didn't want to appear barricaded behind layers of protection. In some ways, this decision was part of his brand, approachable, willing to debate anyone. But that accessibility came at a steep cost. It meant forgoing body armor, skipping bulletproof glass, and holding
Whoa.
to debate anyone. But that accessibility came at a
Look right here. That's a rooftop full of people. Hundreds and hundreds of people on this rooftop.
a steep cost. It meant forgoing body armor, skipping bulletproof glass, and holding an outdoor event in a courtyard surrounded by rooftops. When combined with the rising tide of threats, it created what security experts call a perfect storm. Now here's the interesting part. Even before the shot was fired, footage from the event shows members of Kirk's security team engaging in actions that later fueled speculation. One clip, which spread widely online, shows an agent adjusting his Meta Ray-Ban smart glasses moments before the chaos unfolded.
Should these glasses be illegal in the US? Nobody believed me at first, but now everybody wants a pair. My friends
As one commentator noted in a viral breakdown.
One of his security guards has clearly these sunglasses on that have Meta or that can film, and you can see him tapping them right before he's shot. And then when he's down assisting Charlie, you see him tap them again.
To some, it looked like nothing more than routine communication, but to others, it seemed like anticipation, as if the team knew something was coming. It appeared as though the seeds of doubt were already planted even before the trigger was ever pulled. By the time Kirk stepped onto the stage at UVU, every condition for disaster was in place. Thousands of threats ignored, warnings from professionals dismissed, minimal police presence, no rooftop sweeps, and no barriers against long-range fire. Charlie Kirk believed in accessibility, but that decision and the failure to adapt security to the escalating threats meant that on September 10th, 2025, he was standing in the open, exposed and vulnerable, and just 20 minutes into his appearance, a shot rang out. The deadly shooting and immediate response. The courtyard was alive with energy. Nearly 3,000 students packed into Utah Valley University's Fountain Courtyard, standing shoulder to shoulder under the September sun. Charlie Kirk was in his element, fielding questions, challenging students to prove him wrong, his presence commanding but familiar. And then, at exactly 12:23 p.m. MDT, everything changed. A single sniper's bullet, fired from an elevated rooftop roughly 200 to 300 feet away, pierced the air. It struck Charlie Kirk in the neck, severing vital arteries. In an instant, the crowd's energy collapsed into panic. One eyewitness described the horror.
And I heard the pop, and I knew immediately it was a gunshot. And as soon as I thought that was a gunshot, I saw Charlie's neck and the blood. And I just knew instantly that there was no chance that he was going to survive.
The courtyard erupted. Students screamed, some diving to the ground, others running in every direction. Former Congressman Jason Chaffetz, who was present, recalled that everybody hit the deck and everybody started scattering and yelling and screaming. Within seconds, Kirk's private security detail, 6 men from Schaffer Security Group, rushed into action. Positioned directly behind Kirk on stage was Dan Flood, the head of risk strategy for Turning Point USA. Alongside him, other agents formed a human shield around Kirk, covering his body with their own. 25 seconds after the shot, they had lifted Kirk and were carrying him off stage toward a waiting black SUV about 50 feet away. Footage captured by attendees shows agents attempting to apply manual pressure to his neck wound as they moved. One video, in particular, shows an agent pressing against Kirk's injury, while others cleared the path. Yet online viewers immediately began to question what they didn't see. From the moment the clips surfaced online, many zeroed in on a startling detail: the apparent lack of blood on the hands of security personnel. As one viral breakdown pointed out,
so when we see all of these guys working on Charlie, why isn't there blood on their hands, right? But if you saw the video, you saw the sheer amount of blood coming out of his neck.
To some viewers, it looked as though the team wasn't applying proper pressure at all, or worse, that the scene had been staged. The video fueled conspiracies almost instantly. Experts, however, pointed to the chaos of the moment. In high adrenaline evacuations, procedures can break down. Security consultant Will Geddes later argued that the absence of visible blood didn't necessarily mean life-saving measures weren't attempted. It meant the agents prioritized evacuation over stabilization. But even with that breakdown, the footage still left many uneasy. And that's where another controversy took root. Instead of calling for paramedics or waiting for EMTs, Kirk was loaded into a private SUV, a standard black Suburban, and driven directly to Timpanogos Regional Hospital, which was 5 miles away. Critics slammed this choice. There were no EMTs on site, no ambulances staged nearby. Security expert Chris Herzog called it a haunting failure, saying that advanced medical care in those first minutes could have saved Kirk's life. But SSG's Brian Harpole defended the decision in a later interview, noting that their focus was exfiltration, getting Charlie Kirk out alive, with bullets possibly...
Now, according to what I've heard from the autopsy report, it says that the entrance was right about here. I mean, we've all seen that on pictures, that the entrance was right about in this area. Okay? And they said that it went up to his
still in play and no ambulance.
Cervical, his second, the second right below his skull. And then it went down,
nearby.
down his neck like this. Now, and there was no exit. So, in order to hit his second vertebrae, the bullet would have gone through his mouth. The only way it could have hit his second vertebrae, unless it shot up from a lower direction like this, okay? Now, if it had gone up from a lower direction like this, it wouldn't have been shot off that roof. And then it would not have done a 90-degree turn and come back, or a 180, and come straight back down the vertebrae inside of his neck. There's no way that could have happened. So I'm just saying. The math ain't math in there. And then carrying him to his vehicle and taking him 5 miles away. To me, that was a lot faster than waiting for the ambulance drivers to get in the ambulance, get to him the 5 miles, and then get him loaded up and get him 5 miles back to the hospital. I mean, the math's there. It's faster just to take him straight to the hospital than it is to wait for an EMT to get there, especially since they didn't have EMTs on site.
The team believed speed mattered most. Kirk arrived at the hospital around 12:35 p.m. and was pronounced dead at 2:15 p.m. from massive blood loss. Back at UVU, panic rippled through the courtyard. With Kirk whisked away, students and staff scrambled for cover. At 12:26 p.m., campus police issued the first lockdown order, telling the 3,000 attendees to shelter in place. By 12:39 p.m., FBI agents and Orem police reinforcements had arrived.
Are you seeing this? I'm a little nervous because I have no clue what's about to happen, but this could either be a total disaster.
Footage shows security personnel gesturing to one another, signaling as they pushed crowds back from the stage. In one clip, lead agent Dan Flood taps his Meta Ray-Ban smart glasses, a detail that would later ignite speculation online. To many, it looked routine, but to others, it felt like a signal, a gesture happening seconds after the shot that seemed too casual given the circumstances. Within hours, social media platforms lit up with theories. Some suggested the lav mic Kirk wore had exploded, citing a puff of air beneath his shirt at the moment of impact. Others speculated that security agents had made hand signals to coordinate the shot. Still others argued that the decision to evacuate in an SUV rather than wait for EMTs was evidence of something being covered up. One particularly viral short framed it this way.
Of course. Absolutely. It could have been. It's 2025, right?
These theories exploded across X and TikTok, racking up millions of views before officials even had time to release a statement. But here's the thing. Despite the speculation, official reports paint a different picture. Investigators concluded that Kirk was indeed shot by Tyler Robinson, a 22-year-old acting alone, from the rooftop of UVU's Losey Center building. They recovered the rifle, a 30-06 Mauser bolt action engraved with political slogans, along with palm prints and sneaker impressions. However, while investigators debunked a number of theories, they also confirmed that there were serious security failures. No rooftop sweeps, no metal detectors or crowd screening, no on-site medical support, plus a hybrid model that left crucial blind spots uncovered. In other words, the conspiracies might not hold up, but the negligence certainly does. Perhaps the most haunting detail from the footage is one small gesture. As Kirk lay on the ground, bleeding and surrounded by his team, a video shows him raising a hand, pointing upward. The meaning of that gesture is unclear, perhaps instinct, perhaps a final act of awareness. This commentator summed it up simply:
there is a video of Charlie when he's on the ground pointing up. I think that's the last thing he ever did.
It's a moment that has been replayed millions of times online, a symbolic last glimpse of a man who believed he could stand open and accessible to his audience even in the face of threats. By 1:37 p.m., UVU administration ordered a full campus evacuation. At 2:01 p.m., the courtyard was cleared, and by then, the story was already shifting from tragedy to controversy. Footage of the shooting, shaky cell phone clips, zoomed in slow motion, was being dissected frame by frame. Every gesture, every glance, every decision made by Kirk's security was under the microscope. The public wasn't just mourning, they were asking, what really happened on that stage? The bullet that struck Charlie Kirk at Utah Valley University didn't just end his life. It set off a storm, a battle over truth, evidence, and the very nature of what happened on that stage. In the weeks that followed, investigators dug through rooftops and hard drives while the internet exploded with theories. The official story says one thing, while the footage and unanswered questions suggest another. Alongside investigators, Utah Valley University also did its due diligence. It launched its own independent review of campus security to aid general investigations into the details of the incident. The university has promised to bring in outside experts to review its planning and security failures. Their goal is to learn from the tragedy and to make sure future events are safer. Since the incident, many people have questioned how a gunman could reach a rooftop overlooking a crowded public event without being being detected. The mere thought of it, for many, is quite disturbing, and it sets a bad precedent for future events that will be held in the institution. As this case continues to progress, one question has lingered in people's minds, and that is, what really happened in the aftermath of the shooting, and why do so many people believe the security footage changes everything? Let's explore further. Investigations, evidence, and theories. Within minutes of the deadly shot that ended Charlie Kirk's life, federal and local agencies descended on UVU. The FBI took the lead, assisted by Orem City Police and campus security. By 3 p.m., investigators had recovered critical evidence from the rooftop of the Losi Center, a .30-06 Mauser bolt-action rifle, Converse sneaker prints, as well as palm prints matching 22-year-old Tyler.
How quickly did they say they found that weapon?
FBI took the lead, assisted by Orem City Police and campus security. By 3 p.m., investigators had recovered critical evidence from the rooftop of the Losi Center, a .30-06 Mauser bolt-action rifle, Converse sneaker prints, as well as palm prints matching 22-year-old Tyler Robinson, the identified shooter. But what?
Okay, this just strikes me in the head right here. How did they recover the Mauser? When we've all seen texts where he was texting his roommate that he needed to go get it where he left it wrapped in a towel. And how could the FBI or police or whatever already have it in custody if he had to go and retrieve it so that his grandpa wouldn't get mad? That doesn't make any sense.
While the evidence pointed clearly to Robinson, the handling of the scene raised immediate concerns. At around 1 p.m., less than 40 minutes after Kirk had been evacuated, members of his private security detail and TPUSA staff began dismantling the stage. They removed SD cards from cameras and packed up equipment, all without FBI chain of custody protocols. Investigators later called this a breach of procedure that could compromise evidence.
I agree with
Stop
that.
giving conservatives this free gold Trump survivor coin. Starting the
Utah Attorney General's office even launched an obstruction probe, though no charges were ultimately filed. Still, the optics were bad. Footage that could have clarified events was now missing or handled outside proper channels. 3 days later, on September 13th, Robinson surrendered after family intervention, and prosecutors charged him with aggravated murder, seeking the death penalty. No evidence tied him to Kirk's security detail or TPUSA staff, despite rampant online speculation. Yet the absence of a clear motive, combined with strange behavior after the shooting, like Robinson reportedly stopping at a Dairy Queen just 15 minutes after fleeing the rooftop, only fueled suspicion.
Supposedly, Tyler Robinson went to a Dairy Queen 15 minutes away after he apparently just shot somebody. He went to Dairy Queen. Instead of skipping town, went and got whatever the hell you get at Dairy Queen, and he's seen there.
That Dairy Queen closed within weeks. Coincidence? Perhaps. But to some, it was one more piece of a puzzle that didn't quite fit. While the FBI stressed Robinson acted alone, online communities weren't buying it. They combed through the footage, frame by frame, generating theories that spread faster than official statements. The first theory was the exploding microphone. Clips circulated, showing a puff of air beneath Kirk's shirt at the moment of impact. Some argued this was his lavalier mic exploding, not a sniper's bullet.
I wonder why they're saying that these videos circulated, but yet they're not there. They're not showing the videos that circulated.
See this huge puff of air blow up his shirt, while at the same time, that was the first video that we seen where you could actually see Like it looked like a little cloud of smoke, a little cloud of air.
Experts quickly dismissed this. A former security guard explained that the black dot seen on Kirk's shirt was simply a microphone for live stream viewers, not a blood bag or explosive device.
That bulge and that little black dot that you see on Charlie's shirt is not a blood bag, it is his microphone for his online viewers.
The second theory was the alleged hand signals from Charlie Kirk's security. This theory accused Kirk's own bodyguards of signaling the shooter with gestures. Clips of one agent adjusting his sleeves or tapping his glasses were held up as evidence, although a former security contractor who worked with Kirk forcefully debunked this.
That's all the man is doing, is loosening his sleeves up like this. Like any normal person would do if he feel a little congested.
He added that it was insane to think a sniper 200 yards away would rely on a hand signal from a man on the ground. Another theory claims that the shooting was a staged event. This is perhaps the most dramatic claim, talking about blood bags and props. But once again, experts shot this down. As one debunker put it bluntly,
if the thing above his right chest was a blood bag and it exploded, you would have seen the blood flow from right there where the blood bag was. A blood bag on his right chest is not going to magically make blood squirt from the left side of his neck.
So why did these theories gain such traction? Part of it was the vacuum of information. The FBI took over quickly, but their silence left room for speculation. Campus police admitted their force of 6 officers was not even close to what it should be for an event of this scale. Another factor was the video itself. Grainy cell phone footage, zoomed and slowed down, exaggerated ordinary movements, and made them look suspicious. And because Kirk was such a polarizing figure, every frame became fodder for whichever narrative someone wanted to push. On September 22nd, UVU released an independent review. The report cleared Kirk's security team of gross negligence, but faulted the hybrid model that left major gaps in coverage. The review also recommended mandatory federal integration for future high-risk events. Greg Schaffer, founder of the Schaffer Security Group, further defended his team, noting that the perimeter was the locals' call, although critics later pointed to the lack of on-site EMTs, rooftop sweeps, or body armor as glaring failures. Whatever one believes about the footage, the impact was immediate. TPUSA's next major event, a memorial for Kirk at Utah State University on September 30th, was run with Super Bowl-level security. DHS classified it as a SEER Level 1 event, bringing in federal agents, SWAT teams, drones, and even armed guards. They were determined to prevent a recurrence of that deadly incident. It's safe to say that Kirk's assassination has become a turning point in how political figures on campuses would be protected. Perhaps in the future, more security measures will be employed and strict surveillance will be ensured. So, in the end, what does the footage of Kirk's security tell us? On the surface, it shows a team reacting in chaos, making split-second decisions. But for millions online, it's become a symbol of distrust in institutions, of doubts about official narratives, and of the dangers faced by public figures in a polarized world. Now, beyond immediate tributes and blowback, Kirk's assassination has sparked a broader public reckoning over political discourse, extremism, and the norms of civility. Polls conducted in the wake of the killing show
Okay, that just shows video doesn't lie, but at the same time, now this is just theory, I don't know it for a fact, okay? I'm not claiming this as fact. It looks like they could have staged this person. Now, we don't know for a fact that that was Charlie, that was Tyler Robinson on the roof. We don't know that for a fact. Okay? We're just being told that, and we're led to believe that. Whoever this person was on the roof that jumped off of the roof, there's a video of it. Unless it was something that was being staged, why would that corner of that building where he chose to jump off be being recorded? At an event this large, why would they just record that outside of that one building? It doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't make sense. So let's go to another video. This is going to come from Ranger Day Bro again. Wait, before I go there, I'm going to look this up. Wow. There it is. Okay. I'm gonna go show you come on, pull up. There it is. Okay.
There's just no way. In the turbulent landscape of American conservatism, the assassination of Charlie Kirk has turned into a pivotal moment that has not only shaken the foundations of our country, but has also served to further unite and divide the people of America. One thing, though, that I think we can all agree on is that a government will always lie to its people. A government will always seek to preserve itself, and if that means lying directly to the faces of its own constituents, that's what it will do. And that's what I believe is happening right here, that's playing out right in front of our very eyes. If you want to check where I got the information for this video, there's a resources document in the description. All parties are presumed innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. But without further ado, let's just dig right into this story. So this video is not going to be political. I'm not going to include any opinions whatsoever about politics. But I think that by the end of this rundown, you are going to believe not only that the government's lying to you, but that the United States government, mainly the FBI under Kash Patel, thinks that you are a stupid, bumbling idiot who cannot possibly tell true from false. I mean, some of the facts that I'm about to present you with are comical. And it doesn't matter if you loved Charlie Kirk or if you hated Charlie Kirk. This story, what we're talking about right now, is about deep corruption within the United States government, and it flows into all other aspects of the US government and our daily lives. Really quick shout out, if you want to watch these videos fully uncensored, please consider joining me on Patreon. There's a link in the description. YouTube frequently demonetizes, age restricts, or even removes my videos, so thank you to everybody on Patreon who is helping to keep this show running. So the official story of Charlie Kirk's shooting goes as follows, if you're somehow unaware at this point. On August 27th of this year, Turning Point USA, Charlie Kirk's organization, announced the American Comeback Tour, with the inaugural or first event scheduled for September 10th at Utah Valley University, UVU, in Orem, Utah, expecting around 3,000 attendees. Charlie Kirk, a 31-year-old conservative activist and Trump ally, had voiced concerns for his own safety in a speech that he delivered in June of this year, and in that speech, eerily, he had highlighted what he believed were the risks that came with holding these campus events, the dangers of appearing on college campuses, talking to kids, and just being out there in the open. Meanwhile, at around that same time, according to the FBI, 22-year-old Tyler James Robinson, an electrical apprentice from St. George, Utah, with no criminal history, began fixating on Charlie Kirk for reasons, at this point, that are yet to be fully explained in the official story. However, at some point, according to officials, Tyler Robinson decided that he was going to kill Charlie Kirk. So he allegedly came in possession of a budget hunting rifle in early September and began scouting Utah Valley University via social media videos. Now, in early September 2025, a week or so before the shooting, according to the FBI, Tyler Robinson acquires that rifle that he would allegedly go on to use in the shooting and engraved the casings with taunts like "Hey fascist, catch," and other references to online memes. On the evening of September 9th, 2025, Charlie Kirk arrived in Utah. However, it should be noted that no metal detectors were implemented at the outdoor amphitheater. Early that next morning, Tyler
Okay. It wouldn't have mattered if they had implemented metal detectors, because if Tyler Robinson was the one that did the crime, he wouldn't have had to have gone through the metal detectors. He would have gone up on the building from another location. He wouldn't have needed to go through the metal detector.
Robinson, the future shooter, takes off from his home over 300 miles away and drives his gray Dodge Challenger towards Orem. On September 10th, 2025 at 8:29 a.m., Tyler Robinson parks on the UVU campus, dressed in a black t-shirt with an American flag and eagle, jeans, a baseball cap, sunglasses, and backpack, and attempts to blend into the student crowd. The FBI later stated that at some point, while he was on the roof of the building preparing to take the fatal shot at Charlie Kirk, Tyler Robinson changes his clothing into a different set of clothes. They said that he arrived on scene wearing something different. The fatal shooting occurred during Charlie Kirk's midday address, shattering the event's patriotic atmosphere and triggering a rapid security response amidst screams from the crowd and rapid evacuations. When the shooting occurred, Charlie Kirk was mid-sentence discussing mass shootings with a student when, allegedly, a single supersonic round from Tyler Robinson's rifle, fired from a rooftop, struck him right in the neck.
So, do you know how many transgender Americans have been mass shooters over the last 10 years?
Too many.
They said that he arrived on scene.
So, do you know how many transgender Americans have been mass shooters over the last 10 years?
Too many.
I don't know if you could hear that, but the person asking the question asked, do you know how many transgender persons over the last few years have been mass shooters? And Charlie Kirk's response was too many.
It's 5. Okay, now 5 is a lot, right? I'm gonna give you some credit. Do you know how many mass shooters there have been in America over the last 10 years?
Counting or not counting gang violence?
Great.
The time was 12:23 p.m., and when the bullet struck Kirk in the neck, it caused him to immediately collapse and almost instantly die, despite bystanders and members of Charlie Kirk's team performing onstage CPR and later taking a medevac to a hospital. According to the official story, after shooting Charlie Kirk, Tyler Robinson then changed back into his original clothing, disassembled his rifle, stuffed all of that in his backpack, and then fled the scene. According to the FBI, Robinson left evidence at the scene like palm prints and a Converse footprint and a screwdriver with his DNA on it. Immediately, a UVU campus lockdown ensued, and the FBI launched a national manhunt, offering up a $100,000 reward, leading to the capture of the shooter. Videos of that graphic moment immediately went viral, which obviously amplified the shock that people all across the world felt when they first heard this story and heard of Charlie Kirk's death. The 33-hour pursuit of Tyler Robinson, according to the FBI, involved over 200 interviews and 7,000 tips, culminating in Tyler's surrender on September 11th. But what led to his surrender? Well, according to the official story, Tyler's mother recognized him in FBI-released suspect photos that began to circulate around midday on September 11th, despite his earlier text to his mom claiming he was homesick in St. George, Utah the previous day. This discrepancy that Tyler's mother noticed prompted her to confront him on the phone, which led to a partial confession where Robinson admitted that he killed Charlie Kirk and expressed fears of a violent police confrontation, and even told his mom that he was thinking of self-deletion. Tyler's parents, registered Republicans with no prior indication of their son's radicalization, immediately sought help from a trusted family friend, who just so happened to be a retired deputy sheriff and a youth pastor, to de-escalate the situation and negotiate safe terms for Tyler's surrender, emphasizing that they did not want a SWAT raid on their home. And from that point on, the FBI knew that they had their man, and they then swept in and arrested him. Now, interestingly, Tyler Robinson's words after his arrest have revealed no distinct ties to any organized groups, but his alleged online paper trail has revealed personal ideological grievances. After Tyler's arrest, charges followed swiftly, with prosecutors publicly saying they want the death penalty for the politically motivated act, which has sparked debates here in America on assassination culture, security lapses, and violent rhetoric. Vigils, Trump's Medal of Freedom Award, and Charlie Kirk's September 21st memorial have drawn massive crowds, while polls in America show that people are becoming more receptive to partisan political violence. As of September 24th, the day that I'm recording this video, investigations are continuing into the potential online radicalization of Tyler Robinson. So, it's very long-winded. I'm sorry. I know you guys probably know that story, and the facts are familiar, but it's very important to stress to you the clear and concise version of the story that the FBI is going with, so that now, like a vulture on a corpse, we can go in and pick it apart piece by piece. And yes, that is the official story. So, according to those around him, like his friend, family members, people like that, but most importantly, not according to Tyler himself, Tyler Robinson essentially ratted on himself after planning and executing a perfect getaway, and then was taken into custody. But curiously, here's one of the first things that sticks out to me. Tyler Robinson to date has not admitted to the authorities that he is the shooter. He has not spoken to them during interrogations or interviews, and he's provided them with no official corroboration of the story or timeline. He has not stated that it was him that, pulled this whole thing off. He is not the shooter. He said, I couldn't find anything that he said. Like, I don't think he's spoken to the authorities at all. Kind of like, not to draw a comparison, but Lee Harvey Oswald was kind of pulling similar stuff. He was more denying that he was a shooter, but it's just kind of a similar vibe to me in the wake of the JFK shooting. This is where the cracks in the official story, in my opinion, really begin to surface. So I do want to state, this is all opinion. This is just what I'm pointing out. These are the factual things that I believe do not make any sense and point to some sort of larger, more malignant narrative that could exist surrounding the shooting of Charlie Kirk. I'm not gonna suggest to you a person who I think did this, or a group, or a country. I am simply gonna put the facts in front of your face, then you can decide. Does this make sense to you, or does it not? And if you want to verify everything that I'm saying, I always post a resources document in the description of this show. So go access the resources document and check out all this evidence. Draw your own conclusions yourself. Before we get into all the strangeness though, I want to show you a somewhat unrelated clip. So I want you to remember, all of this evidence, this theory, this story has been presented mainly by the FBI, which is led currently by a man named Kash Patel. Now, interestingly, the FBI immediately took almost all of the credit for the investigation and for Tyler Robinson's capture, even though they really didn't even do all that much. It was Tyler Robinson's, parents or family friend, according to the story, who turned him in. They gave the solid lead. The FBI was way behind trying to figure out who he was. But for a moment, let's focus on Kash Patel. Now, a lot of people I know online are just naturally going to trust the FBI. They're going to trust the government. They think that the government cannot lie to them, that they would never lie to them, that they do no wrong. But I think in recent years, we've seen, conspiratorial thought used to be more of like a right-leaning, right-wing thing that people were slammed for believing in. It was like almost a derogatory term to be called a conspiracy theorist, and it still is for a very small group of people. It's still a slanderous term when you call someone, a conspiracy theorist. But as we're seeing with Epstein, how many videos have I made on Epstein? I've got so many more coming. That issue is uniting the right and the left, because you can clearly see in real time a government cover-up being put into place. It's unprecedented. We are watching as these events transpire, the cover-up not only form, but get sealed into place, glued into place, whatever you'd say. Like, you're seeing these people put the puzzle pieces in and then apply epoxy or I don't know, whatever the hell, resin over the top so that it can never be broken again. It's absolutely crazy. And the guy in charge of the FBI right now is obviously Kash Patel. Back in, when was it, July? Early July or mid-July, whenever that was, Kash Patel, the FBI, the DOJ, Pam Bondi released that infamous document, that presser release, whatever it was, whatever you'd call that, the memo, I guess, saying that Epstein never trafficked anybody He was essentially completely innocent. He never trafficked a soul, that he definitively self-deleted, and a number of other things. But basically just saying that all the evidence that shows that Epstein was a trafficker is basically fabricated or doesn't exist. Now, with all of this evidence there's a ton of evidence that has existed surrounding Epstein before that memo was released by the DOJ and FBI, but in the months after they stated Epstein never trafficked anyone, there's been a ton more evidence that's emerged, like so much more evidence. And they have committees investigating all of this and bipartisan groups trying to bring some sort of truth to the Epstein situation. And yet, Kash Patel, just a few days ago, this isn't a long time ago, I think this was last maybe Friday or Monday, it's Wednesday right now, I can't remember how long ago this was, but it was just a few days ago. Kash Patel actually said this. Check this out.
Now, I know that there's a lot of talk about Epstein, and I'm here to testify that the original sin in the Epstein case was the way it was initially brought by Mr. Acosta back in 2006. The original case involved a very limited search warrant or set of search warrants and didn't take as much investigatory material it should have seized. If I were the FBI director then, it wouldn't have happened.
You've seen most of the files. Who, if anyone, did Epstein traffic these young women to besides himself?
Himself. There is no credible information. None. If there were, I would bring the case yesterday that he trafficked to other individuals. And the information we have, again, is limited.
So the answer is no one?
For the information that we have.
In the files?
In the case file.
Okay.
That's right. As you're seeing right there, Kash Patel, the damn stooge himself, is still sitting there saying that Epstein never trafficked anyone, saying there's no credible evidence, which is just... it's just mind-blowing. There is actually so much evidence, whether it's paper trails and financial documents and associations and flight logs and victim testimonies and corroborating evidence and things found in Epstein's homes. And the goddamn fact that Ghislaine Maxwell was convicted of trafficking, he's just ignoring that little factoid. It's just like, it's such a bold-faced lie that everybody knows is a lie. We all know that that's a lie, Kash. Everybody knows it's a lie.
I might
And yet,
be on the wrong...
he says it with that shit-eating expression on his face and just forces it down your throat as if just saying it a bunch of times is gonna make it true. But that to you should show you, straight off the bat, the kind of FBI that we're dealing with. Now, I know a lot of people, I never thought that there was gonna be really transparency with this administration, obviously, but I know a lot of people out there thought Kash Patel seems like a guy who's not been involved in whatever you want to call it, the swamp, and he's going to come in and be honest and transparent, and Dan Bongino too, and Pam Bondi, all these guys they're like the dream team of heroes that are going to bring light to the Epstein situation and do this and that. All of them have been corrupted. And you could tell. I mean, once they got in there, they probably got threatened. They were told, you're going to lose everything. We're going to blackmail you. We're going to plant evidence on your devices. We're going to kill you. I don't know what they would have said. But you see from all of them now that they for years were saying the government is lying. And then the moment they joined the government, they're like, yeah, the lie is the truth. And they just started lying. So once a lie is told, a person's credibility begins to crumble. The legitimacy and the integrity of the institution itself also...
Let me get to the other one. Sorry you listened to all that for nothing. Okay. Okay, this is from the conspiracy files as well.
So cute. I've been obsessed with it lately, whether it's a ponytail, loose hair, or a bun. It just works with everything. And the best part, it's not just versatile, it actually makes your face look smaller.
2 shooters and a magic bullet. Those words echo with their simplicity, but when examined together, paint a damning portrait. A picture of a cover-up so bold, so in your face, that it seems almost impossible. But for some people, this theory is more than that. It's a cold, dark reality. Charlie Kirk, to many in America, was a beloved figure. And so naturally, when they watched his publicly televised execution on their phone screens about a month ago, they reacted with pure horror. And immediately, people tried to make sense of what had happened. Who could have wanted Charlie dead? Who was able to pull this thing off? Quickly, the government provided a narrative that's been debunked, but a narrative nonetheless. A young man named Tyler Robinson had seemingly snapped, committed the crime, dumped the evidence near the crime scene, and had texted someone a detailed confession, which corroborated a field round fired from a bolt-action.
Okay, I skipped ahead to get you to the part that I wanted you to hear. Basically, he says the same thing that you just heard in the other video up until now.
Rifle, which was recovered near the rooftop, seemed to have lodged itself subcutaneously or just beneath the skin at the back of Charlie's neck without fully traversing the body. Well, that's at least according to the report. Pathologically, the bullet's trajectory is described as having been shallow and destructive within the neck tissues, causing severe vascular damage, likely damage to the jugular vein or carotid artery, which led to rapid exsanguination, hemorrhage, and hypovolemic shock. Charlie Kirk's surgeon actually attributed the round's failure to penetrate more to an alleged exceptional bone density in Charlie Kirk's cervical vertebrae, which slowed and fragmented the projectile upon impact with the C3 to 5 region of the spine, preventing spinal cord transection but still inducing catastrophic soft tissue trauma. This analysis is supposedly supported by EMS records noting non-pulsatile blood flow from Charlie's wound, indicating venous involvement rather than arterial spurting, and Charlie Kirk's pupils being fixed and dilated while en route to the hospital are a sign of terminal brain anoxia from blood loss. The official cause of death is gunshot wound to the neck with massive internal hemorrhage. The toxicology results weren't negative, and no pre-existing conditions contributed to Charlie's death, according to those leaks that were made to media outlets. Now, these details, I should say, and there's a lot of dense terminology here, but we're going to get to some visuals in a second. These details emerged one at a time. First, there were the initial hospital statements on September 11th, focused on Charlie's neck trauma and death. And by September 21st, Andrew Colvett had tweeted and referenced the surgeon's miracle comment about the magical bullet and no exit wound. And on October 2nd, fact-checked consolidated conflicting reports that had been spread in the media into a cohesive narrative of shallow bullet penetration. Essentially, everyone seemed to come together in the end and stick to a very specific story. Charlie Kirk was shot from the front, the bullet barely penetrated him, it hit an artery or a vein, and he died. According to the leaks, the slug that actually killed Charlie was indeed recovered during his autopsy, and it was found to have been intact enough for rifling analysis, though its exact deformation, like yawing or fragmentation, remains officially undisclosed. But to many, this leaked information makes no sense at all. To contextualize the autopsy findings, consider the .30-06 Springfield's established performance in both battles and hunting excursions, which starkly contrasts with the reported shallow path and limited penetration in Charlie Kirk's case. Developed in 1906 for US military use and refined during World War I, this cartridge is prized and, once again, typically utilized for big game hunting due to its flat trajectory and terminal ballistics. Essentially, all of this, everything that I've said so far, is a very long-winded way of saying that typically this round fired from this weapon creates much more carnage when it hits a target. For example, when elk are shot from hundreds of yards away, much further away than the distance that Charlie Kirk was shot from, its bones shatter. It's a gruesome sight. And elk are massive creatures with 1.5 to 2 times the bone density of humans. It really makes you think, doesn't it? This same gun and same round can take down a 1,000+ pound elk from more than double the distance, and it still hits with such power that it shatters the elk's bones, leaves massive gaping bloody wounds, which looks nothing like what happened to Charlie. At around 142 yards, the estimated distance from the Lossy Center rooftop to Charlie Kirk's position where he was shot, The round fired from the rifle should have retained a velocity of 1,800 to 2,000 feet per second and a power of 1,200 to 1,500 feet per pound, far exceeding thresholds for full tissue traversal in a human torso. You see, typically a round will penetrate anywhere from 12 to 18 inches through a human neck or chest. Yet, the autopsy of Charlie's body indicates that only around 6 to 8 inches of flesh were penetrated. There was entry at the anterior neck, deflection off of cervical vertebrae, and lodgement posteriorly without spinal severance or an exit wound. Forensic pathologists online have noted this fact as being extremely anomalous and bizarre, but technically plausible if the bullet struck Charlie at a shallow angle, like 30 to 45 degrees downward from the elevated rooftop, thus maximizing bone interaction. The surgeon's bone density explanation, though, while anecdotal, echoes cases where atypical...
Hello, H. Davis. How are you doing today? Did you have a good weekend? I don't think Manda Panda will be here today unless she's in the background. I do believe she started her new job this weekend or today or something. So, yeah. I'm doing well. Thank you. I'm doing well.
Skeletal robustness fragments high-velocity projectiles, as seen in historical military autopsies. Basically saying that according to historical records and previously documented incidents, human bones have at times been strong enough to cause a bullet to sort of behave in a similar fashion. Charlie Kirk, at age 31 and physically active, fit the profile of someone whose bones could have been dense enough to cause this sort of activity. However, no quantitative densitometry scans from the autopsy have been released to substantiate the claim that Charlie's bones were incredibly dense, irregularly, unnaturally dense enough to stop a magical bullet. They haven't released any information stating, yeah, we said that his bullets are dense, but here, we've run the tests and check this out, they're actually dense. It's essentially their word against ours at this point. But before we get into the next portion of this theory, you need to understand a few basic things about the human skeleton and human anatomy. The human spine consists of 33 vertebrae divided into 5 regions. There is the cervical.
Now, this part right here where he's going into right now is the reason that I brought up this particular video, is because he describes it and explains it much better than I can.
Vertebrae C1 through C7, the top 7 vertebrae in the neck, which support the skull and allow head movement. There's the thoracic vertebrae T1 through T12, the 12 vertebrae in the upper and mid back connected to the rib cage. There's the lumbar, L1 to L5, the 5 vertebrae in the lower back, bearing much of the body's weight. There's the sacral, S1 through S5, 5 fused vertebrae forming the sacrum, part of the pelvis, and the coccygeal, or tailbone. Each vertebrae is named by its region and number. For example, the C1 is the first cervical vertebrae, and the spinal cord, a bundle of nerves running through the vertebrae, carries signals between the brain and your body. A bullet hitting the spine can damage the vertebrae or bones, the spinal cord and nerves, or both, leading to varying degrees of disability or death. Now, the cervical vertebrae, or the C1, C2 vertebrae, are critical because they're closest to the brain and they control vital functions. A bullet that hits this area is often life-threatening or catastrophic due to the spinal cord's role in breathing, heart rate, and movement.
Hey guys, this is Senator John Ossoff in Georgia, and please hear me out because I'm the only Democratic senator.
C1 Atlas is the first cervical vertebrae named after the mythological figure who carried the world, as it supports the skull. It forms a ring-like structure that allows the head to nod, like when you're saying yes, and a bullet hitting C1 could fracture the bone, destabilize the skull-spine connection, or sever the spinal cord, often causing instant death or high-level paralysis like quadriplegia due to its proximity to the brainstem. Then there's the C2 vertebrae, the axis, the second cervical vertebrae, which has a peg-like projection that allows the head to rotate like when you're saying no. A bullet to the C2 can fracture the dens or vertebral body, potentially damaging the spinal cord and leading to paralysis or loss of functions like breathing if the injury is severe. The other cervical vertebrae, C3 through C7, protect the spinal cord and support your neck movement. Injuries here can cause partial paralysis or disrupt nerve signals to the body, depending on the level of damage. Now, this all might be a little confusing, and it's definitely some dense information, but that explanation and knowledge will come in handy in just a second. So let's move into a few examples. I recently came across a video here on YouTube from the creator Valhalla VFT. I've actually seen some of his content before. If he's watching this, what's up, dude? And I absolutely loved it. So I have to give a massive shout out to him and his channel, and I need to tell y'all to go subscribe to him if you aren't subscribed already. He's been on top of this Charlie Kirk stuff since day one, and I have to give him lots of credit for the work that he's done. But right now, we're going to take a look at a few clips from a recent video that he released where he actually went through and analyzed what the autopsy reports say about the magical bullet that struck Charlie, the proposed trajectory of the round, and the truth behind the claims. The first clip is him analyzing the official story and report. Just take a look.
All right, guys, so basically a middle school math problem. This isn't that hard to figure.
I would like to know how Colin Brown can sit there and memorize all of that he wants to say. He's got his computer open right there, but I hardly ever see him look down to his computer.
Out. We know that, according to the medical examiner report, this 30-06 round came in, hit him in the C2, traveled down. All right, you guys are going to notice some huge problems with this right away, but let's go ahead and, just look at this objectively. All right, we got a protractor out. Let's put that right here on the C2. Okay, we do know, again, from where Tyler Robinson was shooting, it was a 9-degree slope with a 9-degree offset, essentially meaning almost directly on at a 9-degree slope, which we can travel out from our protractor from the C2 here at 9 degrees. Perfect. All right, as we pull the protractor off, what's the first huge glaring issue you guys are going to see here? Oh, well, if Charlie Kirk was sitting level, sort of parallel to the ground with his jaw, which he was, let me show you that real quick. All right, so we can see Charlie Kirk is not got his head all the way back like this. He's sitting pretty much flat, looking at the crowd, sort of jaw parallel to the ground as he gets hit. Boom, hit. So you can see that, right? It's actually a little bit of a tilt down even, okay? So let's look at this anatomically. All right, this is essentially exactly how Charlie Kirk is sitting. And they want to tell you the medical examiner report confirms he was first hit in the C2 vertebrae right below the base of the skull. Biggest problem I see with that from the angle Tyler Robinson shoots him from is that would have hit him in the teeth or even above the teeth. There is no possible way that this round came from a 9-degree angle and a 9-degree slope and hit the C2 while not blowing through Charlie Kirk's face. It's not a thing. We also can see the C2 is not where that gunshot wound is. I can show you that right here. All right, as you can see here, yeah, he's got some tilt back now after he's been hit, but that round, sorry for my...
Okay, so to me, it looks like it's like right here because this is where his shoulder comes out. It looks like it's right here. He's going to show you in the diagram that it's kind of like up here. But I think it's down below the Adam's apple, and your Adam's apple's in this area. I'll show you. You'll see it, what I'm talking about.
Beard, that round is 2-3 inches below his chin. Okay? This round is not all the way up, just underneath the base of the jaw. It's pretty far down. I would say that's closer to the C4 or the C5 to where that round, to me, looks like he got hit. So big problems right away with this medical examiner report, but let's keep looking at this. All right, so we know this is not possible. Okay, this definitely didn't happen. But if we look at the actual sort of injury to Kirk, looks like he's shot closer to about right here. Okay, on that left side of the neck. Now, if we look at it this way, now we can make this work for the location of the shot if it inches and hits the C5, but that's not what they're saying. They're saying it hit the C2, traveled down all his vertebrae. It doesn't work.
So, as you can see there, just based on the initial analysis, to make this theory work, according to the leaked autopsy results and report, Charlie Kirk would have had to have been shot through the teeth to make the angle and spine strike location work, which clearly is not what happened. We've seen the footage, we know where Charlie was hit and how he reacted. But as Valhalla VFT continues to analyze all of this, things just get stranger and stranger.
Next thing with this, we're talking about a 30-06 round. Right now you have this 30-06 round traveling at 24 to 2,700 feet per second, or even less, doesn't even matter. Hits him, let's say, hits him in the C2, if this magic bullet that doesn't go through his face somehow. That then refracts straight down into the T1. Yeah, that's not what a 30-06 round is going to do if it hits a human neck vertebrae. We know it's going to blow right through. But even if there was some weird refraction, bullets aren't going to refract almost 90 degrees. We've talked about that, and then keep their actual velocity to be able to do that much damage. Not really a thing.
So as you're seeing there, the proposed trajectory of the bullet, based on the leaked alleged autopsy reporting, makes absolutely no sense. A bullet traveling almost 3,000 feet per second, delivering almost 3,000 pounds of power, it wouldn't have done what they're saying that it did. In addition, the path of the bullet makes absolutely no sense. The path that they're saying the bullet traveled in, it's absolutely egregious when you actually look at a visual depiction of this, like the one Valhalla VFT created, and it becomes incredibly unbelievable. In his video, he then begins to theorize and hypothesize based on the alleged leaked data on what potentially actually could have happened that day. And based on his analysis, the results are nothing short of disturbing.
Do you want to receive beautiful crystals every month without breaking the bank? I know what you're thinking. It must be too good.
All right, so I've seen a bunch of different people talking about now, because of this report, this has to prove that Charlie Kirk had body armor, because again, it's an impossible shot. It's an impossible angle that it didn't hit him in the face, which, okay, that's kind of an interesting theory, but let's talk about that, all right? Now we're talking about body armor, which again is going to be down here on the chest. Again, 9-degree slope. This is still where the shot came from. Here's the entrance wound. Okay, let's talk about the possibility that the bullet refracted off his body armor. First, let's also make sure that we acknowledge it's been disproven he had body armor on, and not only that, TP USA has publicly stated he had no body armor on. So if you're going to operate under the assumption he has body armor on, you are calling TP USA nefarious liars. I'm not prepared to do that, because why would they purposefully lie about him having body armor on? That seems bizarre to me. But hypothetically, TP USA is lying about this and he had body armor on. Let's look at it. Now, we're still talking about a 30-06 round, okay? A 30-06 round that supposedly comes down, hits him in the body armor, which, by the way, if he had body armor on so small that you couldn't see it through that tiny little shirt, it wouldn't be strong enough to stop a 30-06 round to begin with. But we're in hypothetics here. That then... okay, this almost makes me laugh doing this. That then refracts off the body armor, comes all the way up here at a 90-degree angle to hit this C2, and then re-refracts straight back down to the T1. Guys, bullets are not pinballs. They don't do this, okay? They refract and do weird things as they move through, but changing total direction in almost 180 degrees is not possible. This is Newtonian physics says that's not a thing.
That's interesting, because in a lot of discourse surrounding the Charlie Kirk case, I've read people theorizing that he potentially might have had body armor on, but like the original creator of that video stated, Turning Point USA has consistently denied that Charlie had any body armor on his body that day, and it also just doesn't make any logical sense. The whole thing makes absolutely no sense to me, but especially in this context, when you see this whole thing, bullet path, velocity, angles, all of it mapped out, it just seems to be almost impossible.
Again, we know he supposedly gets hit in the C2 first by the medical examiner's report. Well, let's look at that. We know where the actual wound is, which is here. Okay, well, we know it can't have come from that slope. Again, it goes straight through his teeth, not a thing, unless his head was like literally all the way back. So what would it take for this round to have hit him where it hit him as an entrance wound and hit him in the C2 first? We can find that out pretty easily. We can start at the C2. We can come down with our angle here, and we can see that it actually would take a 38-degree upward angle for this to have potentially hit him where it hit him and then also hit the C2 first if he was shot from the front. Does that make a whole lot of sense? Well, maybe if the tunnel theory works. I don't know. That one seemed weird at the time. And then also keep in mind, the round still has to travel then straight back down, which bullets don't do. They don't do this, okay, guys? You would expect a bullet to refract out this way, refract up this way. It's not going to reverse this massive direction back the other way.
This to me is the most interesting portion of the argument that Valhalla VFT actually presents. To make this work, to make the alleged findings of the autopsy work, and to make this whole thing really make sense, Charlie, technically, according to this analysis, would have had to have been shot from below. If his body were to have been struck initially at the C2 near the top of the spine, the angle, in theory, would have had to have been drastically different than the one being presented in the alleged autopsy and medical findings. I mean, really, when you actually take a look at all of this and analyze the information gathered and presented, it seems like what they suggested happened is the most improbable series of events. Think about that. If this is the real autopsy, they're saying he was struck in the C2 near the very top of your spine. So imagine that, touch the back of your neck, feel how high up your spine goes up here. And they're saying that he was shot from above directly into that C2 area, which, like he pointed out, would mean that he would have had to have been shot through the teeth to go straight back to his neck there. Because you're shooting up, according to the official story. You're not shooting down. Now, if you're shooting below and the bullet goes up, that makes more sense. But just looking at it from the official story side of things, it's just lunacy.
Now, the really popular theory that Rob O'Neill just talked about, and Range Day Bros talked about, a lot of people have talked about, which I have not discounted at all, have talked about him being shot from up and behind him. This is very interesting because this actually, besides one little piece, which is that they found around inside of him, this actually potentially makes the medical examiner report work with the injury and ballistics that all potentially work. Let's take a look at that. The C2 is going to be just behind the jaw there, as we've seen it, right? Now, if he gets shot from the back upper right, and again, we don't know what that angle would be because this is all hypothetical, right? We don't know where that shooter was, but anywhere you would think around the way the buildings were, they're all about that height, anywhere from like a 10 to maybe 15 degree angle here. Now, all of a sudden, if he's getting shot in the back right of the head that comes beneath the skull, anatomically, this actually works. It comes in the back underneath his skull, hits him in the C2, and then blows out at a normal refraction angle exactly where we expect to see the exit wound in this case. That actually works perfectly, ballistically, anatomically, to have created that initial impact into the C2. It probably blows down here through the C4, does some damage through C5, C6, through C7 through cavitation. The biggest issue here is this is an exit wound, which means there would be no bullet found inside Charlie's body. That goes against the medical examiner's report.
So the behind the back to the side shot actually makes sense in this scenario, which would imply a second shooter who has yet to be identified. But what makes this hypothetical situation also fall apart is that, like he just said, that would make the wound on Charlie's neck an exit wound, which would mean that a bullet would not have been found in Charlie's neck during the autopsy, and also there would have been a wound on the back of his neck, which goes against all published information. So it's highly unlikely.
But at the same time, we've only been told that the bullet was found inside his neck. We haven't been shown that the bullet was inside his neck.
Likely, but it is possible in the context of this analysis. I mean, who knows? Maybe the bullet wasn't there in the first place. Maybe it's just a cover-up of a cover-up. You never really know. Things are just strange in this story, if you couldn't tell by now. Very, very strange.
All right, and then there's one final potential here, and that was actually brought forward by Peak Prosperity. This is a fantastic video if you haven't seen it either. And he actually had the theory that the shot came from technically the front, but from a much more drastic angle, almost like a 45-degree angle. So we can look at that here too. All right, now, so this theory states that it must have come from a far more horizontal angle, right? It's because the front angle doesn't work at all, which I agree with, to come maybe up underneath the jaw. Even then, it's going to be tough where this comes to get to the C2. I don't think you do. I still think you get in the C4, but to cause the actual damage at a much more steep angle, now all of a sudden, the refraction as this comes in and hits comes through here, the refraction comes down and potentially works that way, that's actually a bullet refraction that makes sense. All right, but then the biggest problem we have with this is then this probably doesn't hit him in the C2 either. So where are we left? What's the problem? Well, the problem is that the official narrative with Tyler Robinson, where he took the shot from the angle he took the shot, like I told you at the start of the video, with the type of weapon that he used, is not possible and does not match the medical examiner's report anatomically or mathematically. It's just, it doesn't work. So you have to then either say the medical examiner's report can't be right or Tyler Robinson isn't the shooter. These things cannot be true at the same time as far as we're sort of understanding it with science and math and physics. So what's the real story? No.
So none of this really makes sense, as you can see.
Some moms want. Okay, that's the part I wanted you to see, so that you could understand what I was saying about the math ain't mathing. Because through statistics and trajectory and all this stuff, there's no way it could have been done the way the FBI is saying that it was done. Thank you, Colin Brown. Thank you, Valhalla. Thank you for the wonderful explanation of that. Okay, not that they'll ever see my channel, but they might. And honestly, sorry, Colin Brown does state in his video, please share it, because like he said, a lot of these they get demonetized because of the nature of them. All right. So next we're going to go to the next one on the list. This is also from Range Day Bro. And I'm going to have to put, I don't know what is behind this black screen. I didn't watch it. I'm going to put trigger warning here. Capital T, trigger warning. I don't know what's behind here, but it does say violent imagery. So I have to kind of say, even though in the beginning of my intro, there's a trigger warning, but okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, I now have acquired proof that the FBI's official story is false, whether knowingly or unknowingly. We're going to have an entire monologue and talk about a lot of these things after I show you this, but if you take nothing else away from this video, you need to see this.
And in that video, you can see the same, what appears to be the bullet coming down, and it does line up with the actual gunshot itself.
So you're not counting gang violence. Great.
So this video was created by a friend of mine who is a Marine. You'll see him here at the end. This is the angle he is showing the shot coming from, showing where Charlie was sitting, and the angle of the shot, which will correspond with this video here, which unfortunately we will blur out Charlie's face, but we will show what is necessary to prove that this was an entry and exit wound. So you'll see him circle the highlighted area right there, and you'll see the exit wound corresponding after, a split second after, as it would from an entry and exit wound. So in this footage, you can clearly see that Charlie is shot from his back right, and there's blood splatter coming out of the entry wound immediately after a shot. The first arc is kind of down, as if it's just gushing out from the entry wound. And then the second shot corresponds with when his head kind of snaps forward. That fluid then flips up in relation to that motion, so you can see there's that second splatter flipping up into the air. This is something that I hadn't seen to this date. I saw this for the first time late in the evening yesterday, and I decided that this needed to be put out immediately because no one that I know of is talking about this. So big shout out to my friend who actually found this and created this video. You'll see him here in just a moment, but let's just one more time look at this shot. You see bullet comes in that circled area. You have the blood splatter go down, then up, and then immediately after, you see the exit right here with the skin being pierced, and then the exit wound emerges. And again, that is not a far distance for a bullet to travel, whatever the caliber is, whether it be 5.56, 308, 30-06. It's not even a debate at this point. It doesn't matter what caliber killed him. What matters is that the official narrative is not true. Again, whether the FBI knows or not that they're lying, but this is 100% conclusive evidence that Charlie Kirk was shot in the back of the head, and it exited through the front of his throat. All of the evidence points to Charlie being shot from his back right. Now, including this little blood splatter that we can see here against the white backdrop, the extreme hemorrhaging from the front of his neck, which again corresponds with an exit wound, the extreme loss of blood. No matter what the caliber is, that distance, that amount of meat is not enough for most bullets to expand. I mean, 99.9% of bullets will not expand in that short distance. Most of them require 12 to 14 to 16 inches even sometimes of tissue to expand properly. Also, Charlie tensing up correlates and proves that he was hit in his spine. It's a spinal injury. Any of the game that I've shot in the neck or in the high vitals where you impact the spine, the game usually drops right in its tracks because you sever the spinal cord. This is again exactly what we see with Charlie. He tenses up. His head movement also correlates with being shot in the back of the head. His head snaps forward and then he tenses up and you see him fade away, drop the mic, and was absolutely traumatizing video footage. And I'm sorry to have to show you guys this again, but this needs to be seen and talked about because this is going to be suppressed in the algorithm. So make sure you share this with any of your friends, your family members, save this video, whatever you need to do. So this video was actually provided to the channel by a friend of mine who is a Marine, and I forgot to show you the end of the video here. So this is my friend who actually made the video. I want to just give him a shout out. I will link his socials down in the description below. Again, he is the one who brought this to my attention. This is his video. He created this. He did the drawings on it and he sent it to me to allow me to use it to show you guys what we're talking about. So he says, I have been shot many times, 3 times to be exact, and I know exit and entry wounds. I have extensive firearms training inside the Marines and the civilian world as well. It appears that Charlie was shot in the back right side of his head and the bullet exited through his neck. The moment I saw the video and he tensed up, I thought, that looks like a headshot given the fact that he seized up. It is a very common occurrence with a headshot. So this dude, of all people, would know what an entry and exit wound looks like on his own body, literally up close in 4K HD, as they say. So if anyone is qualified to talk about it, it is this dude. He is a super cool guy, so please go ahead and check him out. And I really appreciate him sending me this over because until he sent this to me, I just hadn't seen anything like it. Now, I wanted to be sure, and I wanted to make sure that wasn't like doctored footage. So I went to one of the original videos that I saw posted the day of Charlie's assassination. And right here I have it paused where you can see that splash that I'm talking about from the entry wound. And you can see it slowed down. This guy in this video is actually talking about the F in this on his shirt and the ring, some other stuff that really has nothing to do with it. People are arguing about body armor. You could see Charlie's his nipples through his shirt, his chest, his breasts through his shirt, but you can see that he has no body armor on right here, okay? This would all be one slick piece of plate. It's already been established there's no body armor, so this is actual proof right here. He slowed this video down perfect. You see the blood right here dripping out of his head from the entry wound, and the bullet is coming from here down through here. Okay, hit play, and there it goes. So again, I wanted to confirm the footage I had seen originally was not, in fact, doctored in any way. So you can see it here as well, a little piece down there, and it actually goes up a little bit off frame here from my screen recording. So you can see clearly entry, exit, then, of course, the part we can't show here on YouTube. So irrefutable evidence that he was shot in the back of the head. Clear as day to me. Now that may be a hard pill for a lot of you to swallow, and without doubt, the non-player characters who just buy into the narrative, as well as the thousands and hundreds of thousands of bots, will likely attack me in this video because I'm showing the truth. I'm going to ask for you guys to share this video so that this word gets out, so that more people can see the truth of what happened to Charlie Kirk. I want to take a look at this photo next. This guy's talking about this bush up here in the top left of this photo, and he zooms in on it and he's stating that it does look suspicious. It does look suspicious. It looks like there is a person right here, and it looks like there is a rifle right here that the person is holding. A hand here, support hand, sort of very blurry image, but you can clearly make out that this is not just a bush. This is a human skin tone right here, and this correlates with a human head and hair and a rifle in the exact kind of crucifix shape of an AR-15 with an optic on it mounted up. So good on this dude for finding this photo and looking for, like he said, hours of going through photos and videos until he saw this, this would 100% line up with the actual shot that we've now proven was not taken from the front, was taken from the back side of Charlie. This would line up exactly with that bullet trajectory and the entry and exit wound that we exhibited, that we saw here on camera. So guys, this is a very heavy topic. I do not want to believe that this is possible, that the FBI either knowingly or unknowingly missed this. And I'll leave that up for you guys to speculate on. I'm not accusing anybody of anything. All I know is that 100% Charlie was not shot from the front.
Okay, so I hope that that information gets to the prosecutors and the defense, because I don't know why Tyler Robinson would put himself out there unless his family was given mucho dinero for him to plead guilty and perjure himself. I don't understand why. Okay. Sorry, my son is in his bedroom. He had a day off from school and he's off from work today. So he's playing video games in there. And he gets a little bit rambunctious. Okay, now this one is, this is from Jeff Ostroff. Never heard of him. Don't know who he is at all. Wouldn't know him from Adam. The link to his page is in the description below. Let's see what he has to say. These are like new video evidence, FBI cover-up, range day bro analysis. Okay, we may be about to see the same thing that we just saw. So if it is, I'll just cut it short.
There are several competing narratives circulating around the Charlie Kirk shooting, and each one is claiming to be accurate, which means that 99% of all of the narratives out there are either false or they're just simply lying. So a YouTuber named Range Day Bro uploaded a video about all this conspiracy theory stuff, and it seems to be pointing evidence that, the FBI is lying, or there's false narrative there. So we're going to pick through this video and see who is lying. Is it the FBI lying? Is he lying? Are other people lying? So let's take a look at this.
Ladies and gentlemen, I now have acquired proof that the FBI's official story is false.
So first he's going to show you this same bogus video that everybody else has been showing you about the fake muzzle flash.
And in that video you can see the same, what appears to be the bullet coming down, and it does line up with the actual gunshot itself.
So you're not counting gang violence. Great.
But we will show what is necessary to prove that this was an entry and exit wound.
So Range Day Bro is going to try to prove to you that the bullet hit Charlie on the right rear of his head.
Right there. And you'll see the exit wound corresponding after, a split second after, as it would from an entry and exit wound. So in this footage, you can clearly see that Charlie is shot from his back right, and there is blood splatter coming out of the entry wound.
Exit wound? Are you kidding me? Is this guy for real? Well, he did this for the free engagement because he knew people were going to come after him if he says that. Everybody knows the surgeons got the bullet. There is no exit wound. Those of you who saw the real video of...
I'm sorry. We've been told surgeons got the bullet. We don't know anything.
Charlie getting shot and saw the hole here in his neck and it gushed out. That was an entry wound, and the bullet stayed inside his neck. It never went out. Now, likely because it hit his vertebrae there, and so that pretty much stopped the bullet afterwards. So I guess this guy is smarter than the FBI. He's smarter than the police. He's going to try to make you think that FBI's lying, every police officer involved is lying, the governor's lying, all the senators are lying, I'm lying, you're lying, the doctors are lying. He's the only one standing up for the truth.
The first arc is kind of down, as if it's just gushing out from the entry wound. And then the second shot corresponds with when his head kind of snaps forward. That fluid then flips up in relation to that motion. So you can see there's that second splatter flipping up into the air. No one that I know of is talking about this.
Let me see if I understand this. We're supposed to believe that that thin little hairline string is blood that's dripping?
You see, bullet comes in.
I don't see a bullet coming in anywhere.
In that circled area, you have the blood splatter go down, then up, and then the exit wound emerges.
You're also going to find out this guy talks out both sides of his mouth. He'll say something like, the FBI is lying, the official narrative is lying, and then he'll say, I'm not accusing anybody of anything.
What matters is that the official narrative is not true. Again, whether the FBI knows or not that they're lying.
They will say it's 100% conclusive or it's already been proven, this sort of thing here. And that's the trick that they've used to plant the seed in your brain that this is the truth.
This is 100% conclusive evidence that Charlie Kirk was shot in the back of the head, and it exited through the front of his throat.
Boy, he's still clinging to this nonsense that the bullet actually left Charlie's neck and went out this way when we all know that it stayed inside him. But let's just take a look at it. So as we look at this picture here, he's going to try to convince us that the bullet came from up here, and it came down to the tent where Charlie's sitting here, and it went through his head and then his neck. So if it went through his neck, it would have had to have killed or maimed somebody else sitting right here. And you can see how unbelievably densely packed it is with people here. Why didn't anybody else get hit by a bullet? Yeah, so there's another reason why his theory is just a lie.
All of the evidence points to Charlie being shot from his back right.
What? He's saying the shot came from Charlie's back right? Let's just take a look at where Charlie's back right really is. So Charlie was sitting here in the tent, probably right here, right where this hand icon is, right where it says American Comeback. So he was sitting right in the back of it, sort of like right in front of the backdrop. And so if it came from his back right, it would have had to have come from like over here somewhere. It can't come from the windows of the glass, even though you've seen those muzzle flash morons. And this is the Hall of Flags anyway, which was filled with people. So nobody in there could have made a shot and gotten away with it. And so back here is the little breezeway that leads to the SUVs that they came in, and there's police back there, there's security, and there's also staff members back there. What he's saying contradicts the whole orientation of where Charlie is sitting.
The extreme hemorrhaging from the front of his neck, which again corresponds with an exit wound.
You see, he keeps saying it over and over again. If you repeat a lie often enough, it becomes the truth.
99.9% of bullets will not expand in that short distance. Most of them require 12 to 14 to 16 inches even sometimes of tissue to expand properly.
So again, he's misquoting overgeneralizations. He's giving us numbers that may make him sound smarter, but he didn't say where did that came from. What sort of testing proved that? What sort of, government publications or documents show that? None. So
I don't like him. He's trying to call. We don't know. None of us know what happened. To be honest, none of us know. We weren't there. Only the people who were right there could say which way the bullet came from. Only the people. And if they're government, they're probably not going to in any way tell us the truth. Now, we're going to go to Crime Explorer, which I think this is part of the video that we saw in the first video.
Shooter on the roof told me that he doesn't think that Tyler Robinson is the guy.
For weeks, police insisted this was a lone shooter, but new footage, eyewitness statements, and leaked security logs suggest something much darker. Charlie Kirk's private security team might have been closer to the murder than anyone imagined, and what we found next changes everything. The assassination and initial investigation. On September 10, 2025, the conservative movement lost one of its most influential voices when Charlie Kirk was fatally shot during a speaking event at Utah Valley University in Orem, Utah. What initially appeared to be a straightforward case of political violence has evolved into something far more complex, with mounting questions about whether we've been told the complete truth. Charlie Kirk, the 31-year-old founder of Turning Point USA, was addressing a crowd of approximately 3,000 people as part of his American Comeback campus tour. The event was held in an open grassy amphitheater, a detail that would later prove critically important to understanding the security failures that day.
That's a lot of people. You
Those would be among Charlie Kirk's final words. At approximately 12:23 p.m. Mountain Daylight Time, a single shot rang out across the campus. The bullet struck Kirk in the neck with devastating precision. Video footage from multiple angles captured the horrifying moment. Kirk clutching the podium, then collapsing as chaos erupted around him.
UVU by the Soundston reported one individual that was shot, unknown where the shooter went. And let's be advised, UVU in Orem has had an active shooter at the Charlie Kirk event. We're getting several calls.
The dispatch audio reveals the immediate confusion that followed the shooting. Officers struggled to locate the shooter, with reports of a figure in black tactical gear carrying a long rifle on a rooftop. But even in these earliest moments, something didn't add up. Within minutes, emergency responders transported Kirk to Timpanogos Regional Hospital, where he was pronounced dead from a single gunshot wound to the neck. The weapon used was identified as a bolt-action Mauser rifle, chambered in .30-06 caliber, a powerful hunting rifle capable of taking down large game at significant distances. The official investigation moved with unprecedented speed. Within 33 hours, authorities had identified and arrested their suspect, 22-year-old Tyler James Robinson from St. George, Utah. But it's the circumstances surrounding Robinson's identification and arrest that have raised the first serious questions about this case. Robinson came from what many would consider an all-American background, a conservative Mormon family in southern Utah. His father owned a small business. His mother worked as a social worker, and the family was actively involved in their local church community. Neighbors described them as loving, quiet, and hardworking, with Robinson himself seen as very smart, reserved, and a good kid. Robinson's academic record was stellar. He graduated from Pineview High School in 2021 with a 4.0 GPA and a 34 ACT score, placing him in the 99th percentile nationally. He received a presidential scholarship to Utah State University, though he left after just one semester. He later enrolled at Dixie Technical College, pursuing an electrical apprenticeship. But here's where the official narrative begins to strain credibility. According to investigators, Robinson had no prior criminal record, no history of violence, and had never even voted. He was registered as unaffiliated with any political party. Yet we're expected to believe that this young man, with no apparent motive beyond recent political disagreements with his family, planned and executed.
He was fired just 3 weeks before he was set to retire.
And now he's becoming an industry whistleblower.
A precision assassination on his own.
They want it over. They want Charlie's assassination to be officially ruled lone gunman. It was a lone gunman that did that. Nobody else is involved.
Conservative commentator Candace Owens has been among the most vocal in questioning the official story. She's raised concerns about the FBI's pressure on Utah authorities to close the case quickly and rule it a lone gunman operation. Her skepticism isn't without foundation. The evidence presented so far contains numerous inconsistencies that demand scrutiny. Let's examine what we actually know. The rifle used in the shooting was recovered in nearby woods, wrapped in a towel. The weapon belonged to Robinson's grandfather, and DNA evidence reportedly links Robinson to the rifle, the towel, and a screwdriver found at the scene. The bullet casings bore engravings with anti-fascist messages, phrases like "Hey fascist, catch," and lyrics from the Italian resistance song Bella Ciao. But here's what doesn't make sense. The engraving, "If you read this, you are gay, LMAO," alongside serious political messaging. This mixture of memes, gaming culture references, and revolutionary ideology paints a picture that's far more complex than a simple political assassination. The timeline presented by authorities raises even more questions. Surveillance footage allegedly shows Robinson arriving on campus at 8:29 a.m., nearly 4 hours before the shooting. He was wearing what's described as a plain maroon t-shirt, light-colored shorts, a black hat with a white logo, and light-colored shoes. But later footage shows a figure in all-black tactical gear on the rooftop. When Robinson was arrested 33 hours later, he was reportedly wearing the original maroon outfit again, the same clothes from before the shooting. This has struck many observers as bizarre. Why would someone change into tactical gear for an assassination, then change back into their original outfit while on the run? And why keep those clothes for over a day?
Currently, there is absolutely no video which shows Tyler Robinson firing the weapon or even taking aim at Charlie Kirk. In fact, the individual who filmed the footage of the shooter on the roof, the lone video that exists of the shooter on the roof, also told me that he doesn't think that Tyler Robinson is the guy.
Perhaps most troubling is the lack of video evidence showing Robinson actually taking the shot. Despite multiple cameras at the event and surveillance systems across campus, no footage has been released showing the moment of firing from Robinson's alleged position. The eyewitness who filmed the only existing footage of a figure on the rooftop has stated publicly that the person he saw doesn't match Tyler Robinson's description. According to this witness, the shooter wore completely different tactical gear than what Robinson allegedly had. Even more significantly, the weapon visible in the footage doesn't match the rifle Robinson supposedly used. This witness, who has extensive firearms training and teaches others how to shoot, is adamant that what he observed doesn't align with the official account. Then there's the matter of Robinson's supposed confession. Text messages between Robinson and his roommate, which prosecutors are treating as a confession, read almost like a screenplay. The messages describe retrieving a rifle from a drop point, engraving bullets, changing outfits, and leaving the weapon wrapped in a towel. The language is oddly formal and detailed for casual text messages between romantic partners. Even more suspicious, Robinson allegedly didn't confess when brought in for questioning, so how exactly was he arrested? His father recognized him in photos and convinced him to turn himself in, but Robinson himself never admitted to the crime to authorities. In most jurisdictions, you can't arrest someone for murder based solely on their father's suspicions. You need actual evidence or a confession. As we examine these inconsistencies, a disturbing pattern emerges. Was Tyler Robinson the actual shooter, or was he something else entirely? A decoy, a patsy, someone whose presence at the scene served a different purpose? Forensic anomalies and the decoy theory. The physical evidence in Charlie Kirk's assassination contains anomalies that challenge the lone gunman narrative. When we examine the forensics closely, the ballistics, the wound characteristics, the weapon itself, questions multiply faster than answers. Let's start with what should be the most straightforward piece of evidence, the rifle recovered at the scene. Investigators found a bolt-action Mauser rifle, chambered in .30-06, wrapped in a towel in the woods near campus. The weapon reportedly had Tyler Robinson's DNA on the trigger, stock and barrel. Case closed, right? Not quite.
Regarding the bullets, the source says that it was too fragmented to match Tyler's rifle, so they don't have even the bullets. And let us not forget that Tyler himself has not confessed to anything.
Here's the problem. According to sources close to the investigation, the bullet fragments recovered from Kirk's body were too damaged to conclusively match Robinson's rifle. This is a critical gap in the forensic chain. Without ballistic matching, how can authorities be certain the rifle found in the woods was actually the murder weapon? The wound itself presents another puzzle. Kirk's surgeon described the lack of an exit wound as an absolute miracle, noting that a high-velocity .30-06 round typically passes completely through a human target. These rounds are designed to take down large game, moose, elk, even bears. The kinetic energy involved is enormous. The surgeon emphasized that dozens of people stood directly behind Kirk, and an exit wound could have caused additional casualties. But this miracle has spawned its own set of questions. Some ballistics experts have pointed out that the absence of an exit wound with such a powerful caliber is unusual enough to warrant additional scrutiny. Could the bullet that killed Kirk have come from a different weapon entirely? A lower caliber rifle or even a handgun at closer range could explain the wound characteristics more readily than a .30-06 at nearly 150 yards. The autopsy itself has become a source of controversy. Despite Utah law requiring autopsies for violent deaths, particularly gunshot homicides, the full report has not been made public. What we know comes from carefully controlled releases to the media. A leaked police dispatch audio clip appears to suggest that Kirk did not go in for an autopsy, and that the death certificate was signed by the doctor at the hospital. Officials have since clarified that a full forensic autopsy was conducted at Timpanogos Regional Hospital within 24 hours, with preliminary results showing a single gunshot wound to the neck. But the confusion itself is telling. Why wasn't this information released immediately and unambiguously? And why, in a case this significant, hasn't the full autopsy report been made public? Now let's talk about what prosecutors are calling Tyler Robinson's confession. The text messages between Robinson and his roommate.
I can tell you why. And you can research this. In the state of Utah, the forensic experts do not have to reveal the result of an autopsy. They can tell you what they want you to know. They do not have to reveal what was found in that autopsy. Not in the state of Utah.
Have been central to the government's case, but they've also become a focal point for skepticism across the political spectrum.
Oh, you know what? it's probably the Discord messages. I forgot, silly me. The Discord, I forgot it was so explicit. How could we forget? Oh, Lance, wherefore art thou, Lance? Deny thy father and refuse thy name? And if thou wilt not, Lance, the bullet, me, my handprints, it was me. It was me, my love. I did everything. I carved it. Do you remember, my love, when I was carving the bullets?
The messages are remarkably detailed and sequential, describing every step of the assassination with the kind of precision you'd expect from a police report, not a confession between romantic partners. Robinson allegedly texted his roommate to check under his keyboard for a note, which read, "I had the opportunity to take out Charlie Kirk, and I'm going to take it." The subsequent exchange reads like this. Robinson admits to the shooting, explains he's hiding from police, describes hiding the rifle in a bush wrapped in a towel, mentions changing outfits, and worries about his father discovering the missing gun. He even describes engraving the bullets and jokes about seeing one of his memes on Fox News. But here's what's strange. Discord, the platform where some of these conversations allegedly took place, issued a statement saying they found no evidence that the suspect planned this incident or promoted violence on Discord. This directly contradicts prosecutors' claims about Robinson's online activity. Political commentators from both left and right have questioned the authenticity of these messages. Conservative figures like Steve Bannon and Matt Walsh have called them scripted, while liberals have noted the messages are suspiciously perfect for prosecution. When figures across the political spectrum agree something seems off, it's worth paying attention. Then there's the curious case of George Zinn, the 71-year-old man who became what some are calling decoy boy. Immediately after Kirk was shot, Zinn was arrested after creating a disturbance, apparently trying to draw attention to himself. He made statements suggesting he was involved in the shooting, but investigators quickly determined he wasn't the actual shooter. Zinn was charged with obstruction of justice, which is suspicious enough on its own. Why would someone fake involvement in a murder? But the story gets stranger. When police examined Zinn's cell phone, they discovered images related to child abuse. This detail has led some to speculate about deeper connections. In intelligence operations, compromised individuals are often useful as assets because they can be controlled through blackmail. It's also worth noting that witnesses reported seeing suspicious individuals on the Losi Center rooftop weeks before the assassination. A professor even confronted someone up there, but the person dismissed concerns. If Robinson was conducting reconnaissance, why would he be so obvious about it? And if it wasn't Robinson, who was it? The security failures that day deserve special attention. Kirk was speaking at an outdoor event with no metal detectors, no bag checks, and apparently no one securing nearby rooftops. Despite
This is the easiest bra to wear for seniors. I know it's hard for us to wear back hook bras.
the fact that he'd received death threats and traveled with private security. This represents either gross negligence or something more sinister.
The FBI and our partners are proud to stand here today together to bring justice to the family of Charlie Kirk and honor his memory. I want to express my deep gratitude to President Trump, the Vice President, and the entire White House who have been so incredibly supportive.
FBI Director Kash Patel has emphasized the thoroughness of the investigation, stating that over 7,000 leads were processed and more than 200 interviews conducted. But this raises its own questions. If the case against Robinson is so airtight, why were thousands of leads necessary? What were investigators looking for? Sources have told Candace Owens that the FBI doesn't have footage showing how the rifle actually got onto the roof. According to the official timeline, Robinson allegedly dropped onto the roof at 12:15 p.m., just 8 minutes before the shooting. But if he brought the rifle up with him, why is there no video of this? Utah Valley University has extensive surveillance systems. The absence of this footage is glaring. Several people who attended Kirk's event that day have come forward with their own observations. One witness described seeing unusual hand signals between individuals in the crowd just before the shooting. While some have dismissed this as coincidence or misinterpretation, others familiar with military and law enforcement communication have noted the gestures do resemble tactical signals. The most explosive claims come from Robinson's own community. A family member of Lance Twiggs, Robinson's transgender roommate and romantic partner, has revealed that unusual traffic was observed at their residence in the weeks leading up to the assassination. Neighbors reported seeing numerous vehicles with out-of-state license plates, which struck them as odd for a couple that rarely had visitors. Twiggs' family has also expressed shock at how quickly the investigation moved away from him. They've described Twiggs as having significant issues, including problems with alcohol and what they characterize as increased increasingly radical political views. They were present at an incident where Twiggs nearly overdosed 3 years ago. Yet investigators seem satisfied with his cooperation and haven't named him as a person of interest beyond his connection to Robinson. This brings us to the heart of the decoy theory. What if Tyler Robinson's role wasn't to pull the trigger, but to be caught? What if his DNA on the rifle, his presence on campus, even those text messages were all part of a plan in which he was the fall guy?
That's what I've been saying. That's what I've been saying. And the fact that there was such a high reward put out so quickly, leads me to believe okay, next we're going to CNN News 18, where it says many, M-A-N-Y, many, more than one, were involved in the assassination of Charlie Kirk. Pam Bondi drops a bombshell. N18G. So, there's a link to this in my description.
2018 and 2024, if that's correct. But Senator, did you ask Merrick Garland any of this over the last 4 years when he sat before you?
Why don't
Investigation has been going on. This investigation was closed. Did you ask Alex Acosta that?
And Patel came to office, you said you would look into this. There were hundreds of suspicious activity reports. Some people would deduce from the fact that they are called suspicious activity reports that there might be suspicious activity. And yet you seem to have looked at 0 of those suspicious activity reports involving Jeffrey Epstein accounts. Let me ask you something else. There's been public reporting that Jeffrey Epstein showed people photos of President Trump with half-naked young women.
Whoa.
Do you know if the FBI found those photographs in their search of Jeffrey Epstein's safe or premises or
Is this
otherwise?
the wrong
Have you seen
video?
any such thing?
You know, Senator Whitehouse, you sit here and make salacious remarks, once again trying to slander President Trump. Lefters, you know, I wish Senator Durbin would condemn the governor of Illinois and have him work with us, like we're doing now in Memphis. We have the governor of Memphis. We have our 2 great U.S. senators in Memphis. We have the mayor of Memphis, the same, the chief, working hand in hand there.
No offense, but if you're paying more than $50 per month on home insurance, you're literally throwing money away in the trash. Seriously.
Last week, maybe the week before last, I lose track of the days, we had the head of the Metropolitan Police Union.
Much work as it did by you to get them to take that down. Remember, in the days following January 6th, they took down all kinds of things, including a social media app.
Transparency and accountability reforms at DOJ so that you will and other attorneys general be held accountable for these kinds of decisions. Will you join me in supporting that kind of?
Okay, I'm guessing that didn't have anything to do with what we're thinking it might have had to do with. That was all kinds of stories, and these people are laying blame on these people, and these people are laying blame on these people. Nobody did it, but it was done. Okay, now this one, I've never heard of Paramount Tactical either. So this says new footage and video of Charlie Kirk's security team. So he may be showing us what everybody else has been saying all along. Oh, let me bring it up on screen for you. All right.
Photos with you that I think are probably the most important video and photos that have come out in the last 2 to 3 weeks since the Charlie Kirk assassination. The other day I released a video, Wednesday as a matter of fact, and it was titled, "Did Charlie Kirk's security team betray him?" If you are genuinely interested in the truth and you would like as much information as you possibly can have to come to a good conclusion, right? We got to have good information to make good conclusions. I highly suggest that you go watch that video. And as a matter of fact, this video right here is kind of a follow-up to that video. So please go watch that video. I'll put the link down in the description below, and that will give you a better context for what we're going to be talking about and showing you today as well. In that video, I talk about the proper protocols and the medical interventions that should have taken place behind that table by his security team. I show you what those look like, and I compare and contrast to what we actually see. I also highlight in that video the fact that only one person would actually be able to do hemorrhage control on Charlie Kirk at any one time. And I talk about some of the things being said. There should be blood everywhere. People would have blood all over them. I show you exactly what that should look like through a recreation. I show you what I look like doing wound packing, hemorrhage control, and how much blood I ended up having on me. All right, folks, I want you to actually look at what's going on here. You see, I got a little bit of blood on my pants. Yeah, I got some blood on my hands. This is, I hate this stuff, stains to everything. Look, we got 2 liters of blood back here. So the thing that I highlight in that video is that I believe it's this guy right here that is doing the hemorrhage control. And if he is doing things right, if they're competent back there, he's going to be the only one that has blood on him. Everybody else is just assisting him and everything else. Well, I posted that video Wednesday. It was actually removed by YouTube Wednesday evening. I had to re-edit the video, and then I reposted it Thursday morning. And one of the other things I did was I posted it to X as well. Now, in response to that, I suddenly got all these brand new pictures and video that I had never seen before. And those new pictures and video corroborate everything that I say is likely happening behind that table. So here's the footage that we have here. I'll pause it right here. This is the guy that I said I believed was doing hemorrhage control on Charlie Kirk. Even as he's standing by that UTV, you can see that his hands actually do have blood on them. Here we have another guy that was helping carry Charlie. We can see that he has blood on his arm. And if we look, here's his head of security. If you look closely at his knee, we can see that there's some blood transfer on his knee as well. Now we're going back to the guy that I said was doing the hemorrhage control. All right, this is the guy that if there's going to be blood on somebody, it's going to be on him. Now understand, we could not see what was going on behind that table. We couldn't see his hands. We also have really bad footage throughout this. This is by far the best footage that I've seen documenting this event. So here's some other footage. Same exact guy. We see blood on his left hand. We see blood on his right hand. We see blood on his pants, his right forearm, his bicep, his left bicep. And here we can see we have a significant amount of blood on his left pant leg as well. So there's 2 narratives here that are just objectively wrong. One is the idea that there's going to be blood everywhere. That's incorrect. If you're doing proper hemorrhage control, you're not going to see blood everywhere. And number 2, the other one I keep hearing is no one has any blood on them. That's also obviously incorrect. This is exactly the amount of blood that I would expect to see. The guy doing hemorrhage control, doing the wound packing, he's going to have blood on his hands. He's going to be down there on his knees. He might even have had Charlie's head in his lap while he's doing the wound packing. You know, the idea that there's going to be blood everywhere is just nonsense. As a matter of fact, in that other video, I show you in a real world treatment of a carotid artery that was severed. They're wound packing. You'd be
I just thought of something. Okay, we saw Colin Brown show us all those images of how it should have went and did go, and thought it came in from over here and went out over here, and you could actually see his neck pull out like that to go out over there. Okay. Where did the bullet go after it came out of his neck? Was anybody else in the crowd harmed? Did the bullet go into one of those metal cattle guards? Is the bullet in the ground? Where did the bullet go? Because if that was an exit wound right there, which it very well could have been, it makes sense to me. Where's the bullet? Okay.
Shocked at how little blood there is. And as a matter of fact, as soon as Charlie fell down, within a second of getting to Charlie, somebody should have had their fingers in that wound, compressing those vessels, and that would stop the blood immediately. Now it's just a matter of getting some wound packing material in there, most likely some hemostatic gauze, get in there and more permanently compress those vessels. And that would be followed up by a pressure dressing that would secure that wound pack so that they can transport him and it be secure as they transport him to the vehicle and ultimately to the hospital. But literally everything that I would expect to see using those protocols, we do see. We do see that there's blood back there. We do see blood on the clothing, and we see the guy that was actually doing the hemorrhage control. He clearly has a significant amount of blood on his hands. And of course, he tried to wipe that off. You know, one of the things that we do is we teach tactical medicine. And what we tell our students is you got to wipe that blood off. And usually we're actually using the casualty's clothes to wipe that blood off as soon as possible. Not only is blood a problem when it comes to pathogens, the main problem in these types of situations is that blood on your hands is slippery. You can't do things effectively with blood all over your hands. Anytime or as often as possible, you can wipe your hands and get rid of that blood so that you can get a good grip on equipment. You can actually effectively move the patient and your hands aren't slipping all over the place. So this is exactly what I would expect to see. And if there was blood all over the place, that means hemorrhage control wasn't done properly. And I go into a much more detailed version of that in the other video. So please go watch that just for your own objective information to where you can reassess or reevaluate what you believe was taking place in there. All right, so the rest of this video, I've tried to film 2 other times and it just I never felt like I got it right. And I'm trying a different approach here because I realize there's a lot of people out there that are convinced that the security team was in on it. And that is based on interpretations of what they're doing. And quite frankly, I believe that it's really bad interpretations and it's interpretations based on just incorrect information. And I'll cover all that. Now, one of the things that I used to do is I used to train people that are involved in personal security details. Exactly what we're seeing here, but these were at a much higher level. They were, protecting dignitaries, heads of state, diplomats, those type of things. So obviously with that background and that information, I am going to interpret things differently than most people out there. Now, being completely honest with you, everything in me wants to get up here and try to convince you that the security team wasn't in on it. And that is me basing my interpretation of events based on my experience, knowledge, and seeing what they're doing, whether they're doing things right, whether they're doing things wrong. Now, with that being said, if I'm being completely objective, I would agree with anyone that says, Gary, you don't know if they were in on it. Okay, you're right. I don't know if they were in on it. I don't know if they're guilty of anything. But based on what we know, I feel pretty strongly about that. And I also have a real problem with people, especially based on bad information, being tried and convicted in the court of public opinion. Like, that's generally frowned upon, right? And I do hope that people understand what you're actually doing and the impacts or the gravity of what you're suggesting. If you're incorrect, if these guys aren't in on it and you're saying that they are and they're basically guilty of murder, I just want you to think about the impacts that would have on them and that would have on their family, all right? Now from here, what I want to do is just give you objective information. I don't want to try to convince you of anything. I don't want to try to sway your opinion. I'm going to give you objective information. And from that new information, all I would ask is that you be reasonable and take another look at your assessment of the situation, apply that information, and you determine on your own. Do you still think that the security team is involved or not? And then at least at the end of this, regardless of what you conclude, you're making those conclusions based on a more complete data set. That's really what this comes down to. So I just want to go through and directly address some of the things that have been said as far as perceived failures of the security team. So the first one is they should have been scanning the rooftops and looking for snipers, especially given what we saw in Butler, Pennsylvania. Folks, as far as I can tell, it looks like that this entire PSD personal security detail, they're basically bodyguards, right? Consists of about 6 people. It's a little bit hard to put a finalized number on that, but that sounds right to me, right? 6 people to protect Charlie. So first of all, when we talk about the principles of personal security details, their job is not to look at far threats. Now, if they happen to look up and they see those things, fine, they can address those. But they are not equipped or capable of doing effective counter surveillance. It's just not. You don't have enough people And it's just, chances are they're not even trained in it. But the fact is, doing personal security, if your attention in a huge crowd of thousands of people, number one, the most likely threat, which is why these are set up the way that they are those near threats. People trying to get to Charlie, people pulling out handguns, all those things. Your job is to keep those people away and to identify those threats that are right there essentially in front of you. Near threats. That's all they're equipped for. That's all they can do. Chances are that's all they're trained to do. If they're constantly looking from far to near, their attention is taken away from their primary role. If you're gonna do counter sniper security work, you gotta have people that are dedicated to that. And all of you out there might be saying, well, they should have had people out there doing that. I don't necessarily disagree with you, but who makes those determinations? Now there's rumors, and I don't know if they're true or not, that it was Charlie Kirk himself that owned the security company that managed these guys. Whoever was in charge determined that a far threat, a sniper, and I hate to even use that term, but a far threat was not something that they were going to spend the time and money and resources to mitigate.
Okay. He went off in the other direction. Okay, so the last video that we have, I know this has taken a long time. We're 2.5 hours into this already, and I'm sorry, but this is the last video, and I probably won't show all of it. It's from another group that I've never heard of called 3 Arrows. And it says the myth of Charlie Kirk. So let's see if they have another angle on another view of what may have happened.
Everyone, today I want to talk about Charlie Kirk and some of the myth-making we have seen around him and his life since he was killed in September 2025. I hope this doesn't need to be said, but just to make sure, anything I say here about Charlie Kirk doesn't justify his assassination. I'm not happy that it happened, and I don't think anything is going to be better for anyone because he's dead. The first attempt at myth-making is brought to us by the YouTuber Shoe on Head and her video, These People Are Sick. The center point of this video is a compilation of different people being happy that Charlie Kirk was killed, and our narrator expresses her disgust with these people. Again, I didn't celebrate the killing of Charlie Kirk. I try not to become too cynical and detached about things that shouldn't be regular occurrences, like assassinations or school shootings.
This one easy trick will save you thousands when buying a used car. Did you know that some dealerships will clear the check engine codes off their cars? And then you'll...
That's just a personal choice of mine, but I also don't share the utter disgust that Shoe on Head expresses about the people shown in this compilation.
Okay, I don't like this. Sorry. I don't agree with what he's saying. So if you've stayed with me this long, please put in the comments, what do you feel? Does the evidence you've seen today help you to think that Charlie Kirk was shot from here down through here? Or do you think it was Tyler Robinson that could no way have shot him here and hit the second cervical vertebrae and had the thing come down here to be caught just right here? I mean, serial. It doesn't make any sense. But what do you think? What is your theory on these new takes that you've seen, or these new theories that you've seen? Because I'm not saying any of it is true. I'm just saying it's possible. And I tend to believe it. Especially what we learned from Colin Brown on the Conspiracy Files. That right there makes the most sense of any of it that I've seen at all. Any of it at all. in my opinion. All right. So thank you for being here. Do something nice for someone, even if it's just be the reason that they smile today. Have a wonderful evening. I will see you tomorrow at Search for Crime.